This. Okay, good evening, everyone. Just ask our staff, all systems are good to go? Yes? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 2026. Not too late to wish you all a happy new year and best wishes for the year ahead. I would like to begin by recognizing that we are holding this meeting on the traditional territories of both the Sooke and the Sianu nations. And I will start off with 3.1, and that'll be tonight that the agenda for the January 12th regular meeting of council to be adopted as presented, please. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by St. Pierre. All those in favor, please. Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. That moves us right into our public question and comment period. So I'd like to invite any residents present tonight that wish to comment on today's agenda. This is the only opportunity in the meeting tonight. If you do wish to speak, welcome. Please come forward. If you could please just turn on the microphone and introduce yourself and let us know which agenda item you're speaking to.
Okay.
And 2 minutes on the time.
Okay. My name is Elliot Lifton. I'm speaking to the tree bylaw. Thank you, members of Sooke Council and staff and fellow residents for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Elliot Lifton. My wife Danielle and I own a home and we run a business here in Sooke that specializes in tree care and forest management. I've been an arborist for 15 years. I'm a certified horticultural technician through Camosun College, a certified faller and certified falling supervisor through the BC Forest Safety Council. I'm a certified danger tree assessor through UNBC. Our company is safe certified through the BC Forest Safety Council and core certified through WorkSafe BC, and has maintained a record of 0 incidents and 0 claims. I've been doing this my entire adult life. My kids are 7th generation Sooke. I've lived and worked in this community for over a decade myself. I care deeply about its future. I'm here today to request clarification and express my strong opposition to the backdoor tree bylaw in the new official community plan. My business has effectively been put on hold while I wait for a response from the district on what my customers are required to do to remove a tree on their own land. These changes, while they sound eco-heroic on paper, will have unintended and harmful consequences for our residents, our safety, our rights, and our local economy. And let me explain why. First, effectively, what you've done has turned basic safety into a luxury item. The new OCP introduces expensive requirements, permits for even minor tree work, mandatory arborist reports and assessments from qualified environmental professionals. These aren't cheap. A single arborist report will cost $750 and QEPs over $1,000. That is before we even do any tree work. For homeowners on fixed incomes or young families just starting out, this means turning a simple backyard maintenance task into a prohibitive expense. We're not talking about clear-cutting forests here. We're talking about removing dead, dying, damaged trees or vegetation to fire-smart properties. These added costs will hit Sooke families hard, forcing many to delay or skip necessary work altogether. Is this really the kind of barrier we want to erect in our community that's already facing rising living expenses and property taxes? Not to mention the potential turnaround time to hear back from the district. It has been 6 days since I emailed a request for clarification. How long will customers have to wait, even now, or even know if they need a permit? What will we do during emergency events? Are we to wait for the district to tell us to proceed with a tree that is in imminent threat of life or property? Trees don't wait for scheduled work hours. We're on call for emergencies 24/7. Will the district be also? According to WCB, OHS Regulation 26.11 states, if it is known or reasonably foreseeable that work will expose a worker to a dangerous tree, that tree must be felled, or a risk assessment of the tree must be undertaken by a person who has completed a training program acceptable to WorkSafe BC.
Mr. Lipton, you're well over time. Are you able to wrap it up?
I can sort of wrap it up.
Okay, because we're at 2 minutes and we're going on to 4.
Basically, in closing, I urge council to rethink these tree rules in the OCP. Let's keep the environmental heartbeat, but ditch the red tape headache. Balance protection with practicality, affordability, and basic respect for the people who live here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Are you able to provide a copy of that to
Yes.
our staff? And
Yes.
then we can Okay, yeah, our Miss Owen on the end will take that and she'll circulate it to us, but we appreciate you coming and sharing with us today. It's on.
Oh, okay. Dave McClyman, Sooke. I too would like to speak on the tree law or tree bylaw. I don't have anything that Elliot has. I have a driver's license. So the only thing I know about trees is managing my own property and our family property for many generations. And I think if we're gonna have a tree bylaw, we should consult landowners, whether it's, rural, we have some rural properties with, hundreds of acres and we have lots. And I just don't think that we can have one bylaw that suits all the properties in Sooke. So I'm hoping that, there's be a discussion with property owners if we do get into that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McClyman. Okay. Do I have other speakers tonight on tonight's agenda or today on tonight's agenda?
Nick Dickinson Wild. I would like to talk briefly on item 8.2, the sewer utility rate. I see according to that there's approximately 700,000 in sewer surplus currently. I would strongly suggest that whatever can be done to encourage the transition to the sewer area to expand to include building spit should be done, especially given the current highways work that's ongoing in the near future in that area. That was all that I had on the agenda. I would also like to congratulate Sooke Celtic on winning the cup again this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other speakers this evening?
Hi there, Noah Dowie, Sooke. Just want to speak briefly against the idea of a tree bylaw. Likewise, I'm not really qualified to talk about trees, although I do own a chainsaw and have several trees on my property that would be protected under this draft. I'm not convinced that a tree bylaw is either necessary or wanted. Enacting the bylaw would be extraordinarily burdensome on rural property owners and infringe on their rights to manage, harvest, and use their property as they see fit. Sooke doesn't need one. I think the argument that all the other municipalities have one is not necessary. A lot of the people who support tree bylaws like this seem to think it'll make a difference for clear cutting, for development, stuff like that, but it doesn't. That's exempt from it. So all it really does is private property owners face additional costs and lots of trees still get cut down. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers wishing to address council tonight? Either of the gentlemen that entered this, we're right in the public comment period. So if you're wishing to make a comment to council, this would be your one and only opportunity this evening. Okay, anyone else that I'm not seeing? Okay. Okay, we're right into our just about to close public comment. No. Okay, so we will move on. Thank you very much into our delegation section. So first, the one we have tonight actually is the Sooke Region Historical Society, Sooke Region Museum. Welcome. And feel free to bring up another chair if you like. And we have 5 minutes set aside. So whenever you start speaking, we will start timing. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm Donnie Eve, President of the Sooke Region Historical Society, and with me is Lori Shakowski, Vice President. As you know, the primary role of the Society is to operate the Sooke Region Museum and Visitor Centers. Thank you. And in 2025, we reached out across the region to ask for feedback on how the museum is viewed by the community. We wanted to understand what people value and how the museum can best reflect the stories, cultures, and communities of this region. We heard what's important to residents in our community and are here to share these insights.
So nearly 2,000 people took part in this engagement process and 320 survey responses. We reached out through our online survey, and yes, we had paper ones for those people that wish to do it that way. And we held activities at the museum, such as during the open house and the night market. We went out to events like All Sooke Day and Sooke-a-rama, and we partnered with several organizations to hold conversations in East Sooke, Otter Point, Shirley, and Port Renfrew.
Oh, we're just going backwards. Oh, there we go. We heard from people of all ages, from toddlers to seniors, and from every community in the region, including East Sooke, Sooke, Otter Point, Shirley, Jordan River, Port Renfrew, and First Nation communities, and people from diverse backgrounds. We asked how long people had lived in the region, and we're pleased to see people participating who've only lived here a short time, along with many long-timers. And we're very grateful for the ideas and feedback. Our top finding from this work, the biggest message that came through clearly, is that the museum is deeply valued in the community. 88% of respondents rated their overall impression of the museum as positive or very positive. People appreciate the museum as a keeper of local stories, and they consistently praise staff for being welcoming and helpful. There's some key themes on what we would like to see. The biggest one was more Indigenous representation in exhibits and programs, improvements to accessibility, especially parking, and exploring more of the region's natural heritage, making use of mature trees, plants, and wildlife on the grounds. And Lori's going to expand on those themes a bit.
So the strongest theme that came about was more Indigenous representation is needed in our exhibits, our programming, and storytelling, and to deepen relationships with Sooke, Shanu, and Pacheedaht nations. The community wants to see Indigenous languages and perspectives reflected throughout the museum. There's also interest in our natural heritage and exploring the mature trees, plants, and wildlife on the grounds. There's the saltwater marsh, a unique and fascinating habitat which sustains insects, birds, bears, and other animals. People want to learn about and help protect natural heritage. So people want accessibility improvements as well. We heard this loudly, especially in parking, as well as reconfiguring the interior layout for a better flow, signage, and expanded operating hours. Many respondents said they appreciate the opportunity to learn something new, and the community wants more storytelling and learning activities for all ages. Participants want exhibits that feel fresh, interactive, and reflective of the region's full history. Ideas for updates included multilingual signage and more modern history and diverse stories. People want us to continue connecting with the community and more museum and visitor center elements throughout the region. They also like stronger partnerships with local associations. Examples, we've created an opportunity for Sooke Radio to rent some space and added some reciprocal member benefits with the Sooke Fine Arts. We partnered with Sooke Community Association on our Crab Fest fundraiser, and we're working with the district and Sooke to update our heritage signs. So these are just, we have many comments throughout our engagement survey, and these are just a few of them that came up. And we'll end this section with some of them, and you can just read them for yourself. But we found most people don't want to see a drastic and especially a costly change.
So what's next? Well, we're sharing these findings with you and the community, and we'll use the feedback to guide planning. There's some ideas we can do quickly for little cost, and others will need more planning and probably fundraising. And as we begin to prepare for the museum's 50th anniversary celebrations next year, work on the interior exhibit refresh has already begun. And you can come down and see this transformation for yourself. This engagement process has set a strong foundation for planning the museum's future and strengthening its role as a vital community hub. Thank you very much for your attention today. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for attending tonight. Any questions or comments from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
As a valuable resource in our community that you guys have provided an amazing service for decades now, what do you think about where you're going in the future what history are you going to look at preserving now? Because I know we've had that discussion at the table, so I think that it would be interesting for council to hear what your kind of, what's next for
Yeah.
for the Sooke Regional Historical Society.
Well, I'll start and then you can add. Well, history is happening right now. Like what we're doing right now is actually history unfolding. So what we would like to see is more, just more sort of diverse stories. We have a certain time period that's covered right now. So we want to make sure we're reflecting modern stories and that we keep up to date as the community evolves. We've had a lot of growth in the community since the museum opened, a lot of changes. So we want to make sure we're expanding to include much more, diverse representation so that everyone sees themselves reflected there.
Yeah, I would think just to add a little bit was if you see in some local Facebook posts, when someone posts something, say from the 70s or 80s, there's this great response of who's in there. So just to bring that up so people can see themselves in that too. And yes, we've done 50 years since the museum opened with some updates, and now we'll add a little bit, some more.
Just one, yeah. And I appreciate that because like I say, we just recently had a high school reunion, 50 years, which, when I started watching history or paying attention to our community, 50 years from when I was a teenager was, 30 years before I was born. So now 50 years since I was in high school. So it's an important part of our history to capture. So thank you for that. And I know you have an inventory of those signboards. Because that question came up recently. So where are you at with that? And what are the actions that are taking place behind that inventory? Because I know you're talking about changing the language. It'd be good for council to understand that, or I feel it would be.
So we have a committee, it's the Heritage Sign Committee that's set up, and we understand that there is language that needs to be updated, and we're also looking at do all the signs need to remain up? So we're working with council on that as well to see, so we're not overlapping. And we've recently put on stickers to let people know, because people have been giving us that feedback, and we want them to know we are looking at it. Each sign replacement's about $1,000. So we are trying to budget that in. And so one of our things is to double our amount at Crab Fest this year to make even more money to go towards that. So it's definitely on our radar, and it's been the subject of several meetings. So we are very aware, and we got not only with the language, but the condition of the signs.
And these are the green shields
Yeah.
that you're referring to. Okay, thank you. Councillor Beddoes?
Yes, thanks for that presentation. And I tell you, every time I come across that bridge and I see that lighthouse there, I smile. I mean, what a coup it was for the museum to get that and have it on display. And I see you people going through it now. Yeah, that's great, because it was closed down for a while.
It's part of our school program too. Now we take.
Yeah, no,
everybody into
it's
that,
amazing.
understand.
And it is a jewel tucked in amongst that forest there. My concern is the building. What's the longevity of that building? Because I mean, I know it was built at a time with a lot of volunteer labor, and it's I don't know how about bugs in there, but you have any sort of plan for the future on? I mean, there is an end of life on most buildings, and when I was in your chair there, I know I was looking at it, but any comments on that, please?
Yeah, I think like the main building itself, I think is pretty sturdy. There are some things we're going to be looking at and trying to, find funding for. Like one, we need an automatic front door. We need an elevator. We need to like bring in more accessibility elements, but I think the building itself is pretty solid. We've had other buildings on the grounds that we are restoring, and we had actually a donation of labor from Paul Clarkson Construction to help fix the pole maker's shack because it was falling apart. It was rotting and falling apart. We had an old outhouse that was originally from, was it Sooke Elementary
Yeah.
School? And from the very first version of Sooke Elementary School, it was the outhouse, and people loved looking at the old outhouse. But it was like close to the edge of the marsh, and it was also rotting. And sadly, we had to find a way to safely dispose of it because we could not save it. We found that if we had gone in and tried to rebuild it and even to stabilize it, it was too close to the marsh to do that. And there was probably lead paint in there. So there were just so many complicating factors. And it wasn't cheap. And we had to get a firm from Alberta to come and basically encapsulate it and take it away because it wasn't safe and it would have threatened the environment. But we've got another little building there now. The roof is in really precarious conditions. So we're going to be fixing that soon. We've just recently updated our events pavilion. It had these plastic walls because it's supposed to be a temporary shelter. It's not like a closed-in building. And we were able to get some funding from BC Arts Council to put in retractable doors. So bit by bit, we're going on these buildings. We're hoping to expand the kitchen and bring it up to code so it can be used as a commercial kitchen. So we're looking at that at the moment. So there are, like, we're doing things a little at a time.
So there's still a lot of life in the old museum, I think
Yes.
is what you're
Yeah.
telling me. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear your enthusiasm on moving forward and saving some of those things that are important to our community. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Bateman?
Well, sure. So thank you very much for the presentation. Carolyn and I were there at your winter market in the rain, but the big turnout regardless, and got up the lighthouse up to the second level. Shopped in your gift shop, which is phenomenal, and then upstairs into the continuing transportation exhibit, which I guess is a great example of capturing the modern history and with a key present day issue. Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for all your work. I'm very pleased CRD has agreed to pay your staff on your board's recommendation for a living wage, which I think is absolutely necessary and required. The question regarding museum membership program, do you have plans to can I be a member today and or
We are always willing to take your money.
okay.
So.
Okay, that's that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a time membership, which is $100, and that's good for your entire life. And that would give you benefits like 10% off in the gift shop. In December, 20% off for shopping. We've got reciprocal agreement with the Fine Arts for their gift shop when they're on, and also for Wasino, the cafe. So yes, and then for a year-long one, it'd be $30.
Okay, e-transfer incoming. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much for the presentation and for your time with us today. We look forward to hearing more at either your upcoming EGM or at a future
Love to have you.
event
come out.
that you have.
Thank you for the time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 6, which is our report of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Worship. I have nothing to add to my report at this time.
Okay, so I'm going to move right to item 7, which is our consent agenda, and that is that the following items on the consent agenda be adopted by consent. That's item 7.1 correspondence, 7.2 report of the CAO. It's moved by Councillor Beddoes and St. Pierre. Okay, Councillor Beddoes, please.
Draw 13M.
In the microphone, please.
Boom, right. It's been a while, been away. 13M, 36JJ, and 54N. They're all to do with the same concern.
Okay. Councillor Pearson, then Bateman.
I'm looking at, and there was 24, I should have wrote this down.
21, 24, your microphone isn't on.
And then there was a letter that came on January the 9th. Oh, sorry. There was a letter that came on January the 9th, but it's not included in here.
It might be the cutoff though, because the final cutoff
It's January
date I
7th.
see is January the 7th.
Okay.
The
January-
cutoff of this
cutoff.
is January the 7th.
Yeah, it's the one that we received from Mr. Saunders.
So that'll fall into the next one.
It'll be on the next one.
Well, the cutoff here was January the 7th,
On this consent agenda was, okay, sorry, I didn't.
right? Like the cutoff
I
date
hadn't-
here is January the 7th for.
Got my glasses on now and I see January the 7th. I was looking for the letter from January the 9th. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Bateman?
Yeah, I would like to pull number 67, the quarterly report from the ombudsperson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, so I'll call the question to receive and file everything else. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on into item 8. We're into our report section, and the first one is the appointment of the corporate officer. Is there a staff presentation in addition to the report? No? Okay. So the motion is that council appoint Greg Lois, Director of Corporate Services, as corporate officer for the District of Sooke, effective immediately. Moved by Councillor Haldane and seconded by St. Pierre. Any questions or comments from the mover, the second, or anyone else? No? All in favor? And that's any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Welcome aboard. And the next part of this is, and that council rescind the appointment of Rachel Gray as Deputy Corporate Officer, with Nancy Owen resuming her previously appointed role as Deputy Corporate Officer, effective immediately. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any questions, comments? Go
No,
ahead.
just a comment, thank you to Ms. Owen for stepping into the breach and doing a remarkably good job. And welcome, Mr. Lois.
Okay. Well said. Thank you. Anything from anyone else? Okay, call the question. All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Okay. Next up is 8.2, transition to a new sanitary sewer utility rate model. I'll turn it to staff. Councillor Pearson, can you shut your microphone off? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Paul Bohemian, Manager of Wastewater Services for the District of Sooke. I'd like to introduce Dan Huang, a representative from Connections Planning Limited. Dan will deliver a short presentation on the proposed 2027 wastewater utility billing structure, which is scheduled to take effect following the completion of the current loan repayment at the end of 2026. Following the presentation, Dan and I are open to the floor to address any questions you may have.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think there's a presentation being loaded by staff. Perfect. Your Worship and Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. Normally I would be joining you in person, but I'm up here in the Okanagan on a couple of projects. So thank you for accommodating me virtually. I'm pleased to present a short presentation, about 6 slides, as an introduction to this project, which accompanies the staff report. And just many thanks to Paul and to Rose for all of their support on this project to date. Next slide, please. In 2006, the District of Sooke implemented a parcel tax for sewer, as well as a sewer generation charge. These charges were to fund the financing, the capital and the operating costs of the district's community sewer system, which it took over, including a 20-year debenture for $8.8 million in borrowing. The last debt repayment on this 20-year debenture will occur later this fall in October. In reviewing with staff on the 2026 revenues and expenditures, we anticipate that no changes are anticipated to the rate structure for 2026. But we felt that it's prudent for the district to consider revising the sewer rate structure starting next year in 2027 as to address a number of items. Firstly, we're looking to move to a utility-based rate structure for operating expenditures. Secondly, we're going to be looking at the current flat rate structure and consider a portion of that as a usage-based approach, i.e. a user pay based on consumption. And this helps to promote fairness and transparency for the operating expenditures. And then finally, we're looking to incorporate asset renewal and refurbishment into the capital expenditure budget as per the recently approved District of Sooke Asset Management Plan. The next few slides will have some automated animations, so hopefully all goes smoothly. So your current bylaw 150 provides a flat rate sewer rate of $652 per parcel or dwelling unit equivalent. And then it also includes a sewer rate generation above that for other uses like duplexes, suites, and commercial based on the equivalent. This parcel-based approach generates approximately $4.3 million in 2025. And that parcel that is allocated on a parcel tax, which goes to ratepayers' property taxes, those that actually are part of the sewer system. And that funds both the capital as well as the operations for the entire sewer system. So that includes annual operations, debt repayment, capital projects, and then any surpluses, which then go to reserves. Yeah, as part of this, it also includes amortization within the expenditure category. Debt repayment, as per the staff report, was approximately $460,000. And then, as mentioned, at the end of this year, that debt repayment will be paid off. So next slide. So what we're looking at doing or considering for the 2027 fiscal year, once we determine what that sewer fund budget looks like for 2027, we were then looking at a potential sewer rate, which ideally will be similar to the average parcel that most people are paying right now, which is the 653. We're looking at we're splitting that rate into the capital portion would stay as a parcel tax on the property tax. This would help fund a new item, which would be asset management. So previously we hadn't funded asset management for replacement and refurbishment. So we're essentially shifting away from the debt repayment, which will be completed, and then adding hopefully a component of asset management. The remaining components, capital projects, any capital surpluses, and any amortization will remain as part of the capital program. And then for operations, generally it's best practice that operations for utilities are funded through a utility bill. And so that utility bill then would cover annual operations and then any operating surplus, which would go to reserves. So this would be a new component to the system, but essentially just divides the sewer fund into its components of operations under the utility bill and capital under the property tax. Our goal is to continue to provide sustainable funding of the community sewer system, but we're also very mindful of the economic conditions that ratepayers are facing, and we're mindful of the potential financial impacts to residents and ratepayers. The next slide, please. So as we continue our research and analysis, working with staff, there's a few things that we're continuing to analyze. We want to continue to understand those operational impacts of sewage flows throughout the year. Definitely the flows and the usage changes through the year. And so we're working closely with operations staff to understand how that impacts the operational flows. We've been collecting metered winter water use data from the CRD. This helps us determine a potential consumption-based rate structure for sewer. Most communities do not measure individual sewer flows from individual properties, but they do measure water. And so most of the communities that use this rate structure use the winter water rate as a proxy for generating a potential consumption-based sewer rate. One of those communities is Colwood, and so we're looking at Colwood as well as a number of other communities throughout the CRD to look at what their comparison community rate structures look like and how that might be applicable to the District of Sooke. In chatting with staff, we think there's benefit in maintaining a parcel tax component. As I mentioned on that slide, for any of the capital works, we would maintain as part of the parcel tax component. One of the added benefits of keeping a parcel tax component is that then homeowners can utilize the tax deferment if they're applicable, as well as any homeowner grants that they could apply against the parcel tax component on their property tax. So we think there's benefits of maintaining at least a portion of the sewer utility within a parcel tax component. And then finally, we're working with staff on what a preferred utility billing cycle might look like, whether it's an annual billing cycle or a biannual or others. This will create a new set of tasks for district finance and administrative staff. So we want to make sure that we're being fair to ratepayers, but at the same time mindful of any additional burdens that we place on both finance and admin staff for this new utility cycle. And the last slide, please. So we're continuing to work with staff on our detailed technical review over the next couple of months. With that, we'll then develop a series of potential sewer rate options, identify what some of the potential legislative and bylaw changes will be required. That'll happen in March. We'll be coming back to council hopefully in April for a more detailed review session to review some of those options, to review some of our findings, and get council's feedback on some direction in April. We will then go out to the community for consultation engagement in April and May before we come back to finalize the sewer rate structures and the draft bylaws, hopefully for council adoption of the sewer rate bylaws in July. And again, this would be in preparation for 2027 when those rates of those adopted bylaws would come into effect. So with that, thank you for your time this morning or this evening, and open to any questions or discussions for myself and or Paul. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to put the motion forward first, and that is that council receive this report for information. So that's moved by Councillor Beddoes, seconded by Pearson. Over to Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, thank you for that report. Do you have a breakdown? Like right now, we have a parcel tax of 653. How much is that was for debt reduction as compared to operational costs? Do you have that?
Thank you. Through your worship, in the staff report, it identifies that of that $460,000 went to the sewer debt repayment. 2.6 million went to operating expenses. $570,000 went to amortization, and about $718,000 went to the surplus for future capital or operation expenses.
Okay, thank you.
But were you asking how it breaks down?
Yeah, I wanted the percentages.
It's more specific to the parcel tax that a resident pays, like that 460.
I mean, it's very artistic what he said, but it didn't.
Do we know roughly what that is? Or that, sorry, the 653, do we know which part of that is the debt and which part is operating, or do we know that
I
differently?
guess somebody could do the math, but
I'm trying to do the math right now. We're about, we're just under, probably 12%, 12 to 15, I'd say 15% goes to debt. So 15% of the 653, so about $100, I'd say, if all things being equal. It's not exactly equal because some properties pay the parcel generation, but I'd say roughly 15% goes to debt repayment. So that'd be about $100.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Pearson, then St. Pierre.
Thank you. And again, my question was the same. What is that? So when the sewer got originally was agreed to in Sooke, and part of the financing for our sewer system, certain parcel properties bought into sewer capacity. Do we have any idea of how much that sewer capacity is at now? Like, is there still outstanding properties that haven't developed but still have a right to that sewer capacity? Because we took the money in 2008 or 6 sewer system.
Yeah, and we continuously take more as people are added into the system. Currently, we're at about 2/3 capacity within. So we're at about 4,000 homes connected to the sewer system. So we can take in another 2,000.
Yeah. So how many of those original purchases based on a parcel tax, how many of them have come online?
Well, I'd have to go through the system, but I know initially there was 1,350 houses in 2006 that were attached, and now we're over 4,000.
Okay. So I'm curious about the how do you calculate the sewer based on water? So maybe a little granular of a question, but somebody has a swimming pool at their house and they paid a water rate to fill up their pool, are they getting taxed on the water? Are they getting a sewer cost for filling up their pool too? If you're billing them based on water, are you charging them for,
That's,
if watering, like we have a lot of agricultural properties that also spend a lot of, or use a lot of water in peak months. So
That's
how
what-
do you monitor that?
that's why we're looking at the winter rates when people aren't filling their pools or irrigating. So we're looking in that winter time between November and say May, but it'll be coming out more in the next presentation when we isolate that.
Utility building costs. What is there are you, in the next presentation, I anticipate what's that going to cost us in administration to go to a billing system where currently right now you're just paying a flat parcel tax on your property tax. So would that be whole nother department or?
No, we could probably take that in-house, and that'll be more in the next presentation where we incorporate the wages for people as well.
And that infrastructure around that, like either electronic billing or mailing out bills or whatever we do. So, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'm curious, in terms of the metering, similar question to Councillor Pearson. What are the cost implications for residents in terms of actually getting the data in even that winter baseline? Is that information already available?
Yep.
Are we looking at, okay, so we don't have to install new meters or anything like that?
No, we're sharing with the CRD system, so we can see if there's
Okay,
CRD
so the
meters.
data is already available.
Yep.
It's mostly an administrative cost.
Yep, and we already have all that information. We've been going through it for the last year,
So
so.
residents aren't looking at additional costs.
Nope.
Thank you.
Councillor Haldane.
Yeah, I'm just one question. Years ago, we didn't have enough money to put the system in with CSA approved pipe. We have a portion of our system is on rib pipe. Is there much of that left to replace, or has that been budgeted for replacement?
The ridge PVC that's in place, we have some still on certain streets, but it's technically fine. It just becomes an issue when you try and tie into the system. But we just changed our bylaws for that portion to insert a T's instead. So the ridge system that is in place for sewer systems is not even near its service life yet. The piping is, we should get at least another 80 years out of that piping.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Anything from anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, we implemented, and I'm going to say in 2014 somewhere, if you joined the sewer specified area, there was a parcel tax recoup. Will that be affected under this plan? Like as people come into the sewer specified area, are they still going to be expected, because we paid it off basically, but it was.
Yes, to answer your question, there will be a fee, but we haven't gotten to the end of what that fee will be. Yeah. So to pay the capital expansion charge of the last years of service, we're still looking into that at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor St. Pierre? No? Okay.
Got to me.
As your microphone was on. Anything from anyone else? Okay. So the motion is there's no decision point. It's just information tonight. So call the question on receipt. And that's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again in April.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move into 8.3, which is our budget 26 service level overview presentation. So I'll turn this over to staff, please.
I just thought I'd introduce the planning and development departments. The planning and development departments include a planning department, the building department, and the economic development department. Tonight, Jaden Riley, our manager of planning, will be providing you with an overview of our planning department work to date and plans for next year. Tristan Hammersley, our chief building official, will be providing a presentation on the building department, and Gail Scott will be providing a presentation on the economic development department. I have taken on parks and subdivision more recently with the absence of our director of operations, but those presentations were done back in November, so you've already seen those. Some of the main items that we're looking at in terms of next year's sort of this, like the bigger ticket items are looking at an employment land strategy. We have applied for a grant for that, but we won't find out until, I believe, March, whether we have the grant approval. We're looking at some zoning bylaw amendments in relation to some editorial work, but more substantially in sort of implementing the new official community plan. We're looking at potential revision of the building bylaw, so there might be a budget for that. And managing and implementing the MRDT, or the hotel tax, which we started taking money late last year, and we'll have a full year this year in terms of the funds raised from the hotel tax. And so we're looking at how that will be implemented over this next year. So I'll turn it over to Jaden Riley, our manager of planning, to start with the planning department.
Yeah, thank you. So this presentation provides a brief overview of the community planning service area as part of the 2026 budget process, including our core functions, staffing and budget context, and highlight how planning work supports council priorities, particularly housing delivery, legislative compliance, and coordinated growth. Sorry. Community planning provides the policy framework and regulatory guidance that shapes how Sooke grows, both now and in the future. Our work sits at the intersection of council policy, provincial legislation, and development activity. We implement the official community plan and zoning bylaw, review development proposals, and provide advice to council to support informed and legally sound decision-making. In recent years, a significant portion of work is focused on implementing the new provincial housing legislation. This has shifted planning from discretionary policy work to mandatory compliance with tighter timelines and increased technical complexity. Alongside long-range planning, we coordinate development referrals across departments and agencies to ensure growth aligns with infrastructure capacity, climate objectives, and community expectations. Through this work, community planning reduces municipal risk, supports housing delivery, and translates council priorities into clear implementable policy. We are a small team with a broad mandate that includes long-range policy, statutory compliance, and day-to-day development review. Staffing reflects the need for professional planning expertise, particularly as provincial housing legislation has increased both the volume and complexity of work. And from a budget perspective, community planning represents a relatively small share of the overall operating budget, listed at 4%. In 2025, this past year was primarily an implementation and capacity building year for the planning division. The adoption of the OCP was a major multi-year milestone and required substantial staff time, coordination, and technical work that was mostly done in-house. At the same time, the department initiated zoning bylaw updates to implement provincial mandated small-scale multi-unit housing requirements within legislated timelines. Throughout the year, staff continued to process a significant volume of development applications and referrals, maintaining service continuity while major long-range planning work was underway. An important achievement was the successful recruitment of a senior planner, Kyle McStravick, that joined us earlier this year, or last year, which helped stabilize capacity and maintain service levels. Overall, these achievements reflect a year focused on legislative compliance, policy adoption, and sustaining core planning services in an increasingly complex environment. These priorities that reflected on this slide reflect council direction, provincial legislative requirements, and an ongoing operational responsibilities of community planning. The primary focus in 2026 is implementation. With the OCP adopted, staff effort is shifting towards translating policy into bylaws, guidance materials, and coordinated internal processes. The zoning bylaw update is a foundational priority to ensure alignment with the OCP and compliance with provincial housing legislation, supporting housing delivery and development certainty. The employment land strategy, as Mr. Marshall outlined, remains a priority subject to internal grant funding and is intended to support long-term economic resilience and local job growth. A sustainability checklist is proposed as a voluntary non-regulatory tool to support sustainability objectives in the OCP. Work on an affordable housing contribution policy will provide greater clarity and consistency when considering affordable housing outcomes in development proposals. And alongside these initiatives, the department will continue to process development applications and refine review practices to improve efficiency and reduce delays. This slide highlights the key factors influencing community planning workload and service delivery. Provincial housing legislation continues to expand the scope and pace of planning work with prescribed timelines and reduced local discretion. This requires ongoing policy updates, technical interpretation, and coordination across departments. At the same time, expectations for housing delivery and development processing have increased. Staff must balance long-range policy implementation with day-to-day review of statutory development applications and referrals. From a business continuity perspective, maintaining consistent planning practice requires ongoing training and knowledge sharing as provincial requirements continue to evolve. Financially, the department faces pressures related to increasing application complexity and professional service costs, while many long-range planning functions are not fee recoverable. Overall, these drivers reflect a service area managing growing legislative and operational demands within a relatively small and stable resource base. This slide provides a snapshot of activity and outcomes that illustrate the scope of community planning work over the past year. The adoption of the OCP and advancement of the zoning bylaw were significant long-range planning milestones that required sustained staff effort alongside ongoing operational responsibilities. In terms of development activity, 19 applications were submitted during the year, while 45 applications were processed. The higher number of processed reflects applications carried forward from previous years, as well as the ongoing coordination and approvals required for more complex files. Staff also handled approximately 9,900 external emails and over 16,000 internal emails, reflecting extensive interaction with applicants, consultants, and other departments. While phone calls are fewer in number, they often involve more detailed discussion and problem solving related to development proposals and policy interpretation. Overall, community planning manages major policy initiatives alongside a steady volume of day-to-day development activity, serving as a central coordination point within the organization. This slide shows application revenue from 2019 to 2025. Application volumes fluctuate year to year, but zoning-related applications and development permits consistently represent the largest share of planning workload. While submission numbers vary, the complexity of files has increased, particularly for rezoning, development permits, and variances. Some applications span multiple years, as noted. Applications submitted later in the year, like we had in 2024, or more complex files are often issued in the following year, which helps explain differences between applications submitted and processed in a given year. Many planning functions, however, particularly long-range planning policy work, are not fee recoverable and not reflected here. Overall, these metrics illustrate the ongoing legislative baseline workload community planning manages alongside other major policy initiatives and council-directed planning work. Community feedback from the budget 2026 engagement reinforces many of the issues community planning addresses on an ongoing basis. Residents consistently express the need to balance growth with infrastructure capacity, particularly in relation to housing, transportation, and servicing. There's broad support for housing with the clear expectation that growth be planned, coordinated, and aligned with community character. Housing affordability and housing choice remain important themes, with feedback highlighting the need for a range of housing options that contribute positively to the community. Participants also emphasize the importance of long-term planning, expressing a preference for clear policy direction over reactive decision-making. Environmental protection and sustainability continue to be the core community values, with strong interest in growth that respects Sooke's natural setting and long-term resilience. In response, community planning is focused on implementing the OCP, updating zoning to reflect community priorities and provincial requirements, and advancing policy tools that support housing, employment, and sustainability objectives in a coordinated way. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
We'll go to all the presentations and then we'll put a motion forward to receive. Okay.
Through your worship to council. My name is Gail Scott. I'm the Community Economic Development Officer for the District of Sooke. My position reports to the Director of Planning and Development, Chris Marshall, and the percentage of overall budget of the district's budget for community economic development is 1%. The department consists of one full-time employee, that being myself. My division is responsible for the development and implementation of economic strategies and plans to support sustainable growth, revitalization, and diversification within the municipality. That includes destination tourism, design, management, and marketing, AKA getting the MRDT. Small business cooperative support services from startup to expansion. Business retention, identification, and investment attraction. Community service agreement supports, which is now called Community Investment Program. My position supports a number of not-for-profit agreement holders in order to help them with capacity issues. It's the further development of relationship building and network development. And it is very much focused on grant, pathfinding, and leveraging of resources. It also supports the services of planning and development as required. An example would be supporting planning and development and going after the REDIP grant so that they can apply for the employment strategy. And it staff support to the Community Economic Development Standing Committee. Oh, I think I went on too far. Ongoing. Sorry, I gotta put these glasses on and off. Yeah, ongoing. Areas of focus. Right now, it's a continuation of provincially approved 5-year MRDT, which stands for the Municipal Regional District Tax Business Plan. It's the implementation of that 5-year plan, but a focus on year 1 tactical plan, which goes from November 2025 to the end of October 2026. So we have to comply with the deliverables within that 1-year plan. Destination BC Visitor Economy Marketing Co-op Initiative is also another piece of work that's been continuing for the last 3 years. It's in collaboration with the Sooke Region Tourism Association and the City of Langford, and it's called the Spirit Loop if you're not aware of it. We've now gone into phase 3, and it is a co-shared funding program, which markets the West Coast, South Vancouver Island through video footage and storytelling. And it's a great marketing tool. It is incorporated into both the District of Sooke's website as well as CERTA's website. So it's used as a marketing and branding video storytelling tool. Ongoing work with the Shoreline Business Services Cooperation in collaboration with the Sooke Region Chamber of Commerce and WorkLink Employment Services. For those that are not aware, originally it was called the Sooke Region Business Services Cooperative, and just recently we had a name change to Shoreline, making it more marketable from a branding perspective. There's still quite a bit more work to be done on that. We have definitely identified and confirmed partnerships for referrals of clients, but we're going to need some dedicated funding to keep it operational. And that's been a challenge right now, trying to find the grant that will support that. So there's more work to be done this year on that for sure. Enhancing and expanding the CED network partnership agreements. We're developed a stronger relationship with the South Island Prosperity Partnership, Vancouver Island Economic Association, the Rural Islands Economic Partnership, BCEDA, TIA BC, which stands for the Tourism Industry Association of BC, Destination Greater Victoria, Province of BC, Ministry of Jobs and Economic Growth, ICE-T, etc. ICE-T stands for Island Coastal Economic Trust. Although we are not a member of ICE-T, we are in direct communication with them on an ongoing basis to see if it's possible to become a member and remove some of the barriers to us becoming that. Also working with the Royal Rose Learning Partnership Programs and involving graduate students and MBA students in delivering research and analysis on municipal projects related to tourism, transportation, climate action adaptation strategies, etc. So we are a member with Royal Rose Learning Program, and it's an annual cost, but we do get more out of what the students give us than it actually costs us. So we're into the current slide. Areas of focus is the Wanda Fuca Cross-Border Bioregion Destination Tourism Investment Corridor Project. That's the longest name I've ever had to say. In collaboration with Destination Canada and Pacific Northwest Economic Region from the Olympic Peninsula, which basically covers Highway 112 or the Discovery Trail on the Olympic Peninsula side. This project is a very interesting project. We started it before President Trump introduced the tariffs and the some of the issues around that. And because of all that, tourism has taken a huge hit on the American side, not so much on the Canadian side. Americans come over because the dollars go further, but the Canadians are not going over to the Washington state, and they are suffering. So this project has become a very strong focus right from provincial and federal government levels of Canada to support tourism relationship development. I am the project lead and the steering committee co-chair for that standing committee. And we are looking at furthering our Indigenous tourism product identification and investment implementation strategies. I've just reached out to a couple of First Nation representatives locally to see if they would like to become part and parcel of our new standing committee. We look at multimodal transportation access strategies that will deal with emergency resiliency, reducing GHGs, highway traffic grid, introduction of electrified traffic ferry services. We're also looking at and not just looking at, but we're actually in the process of developing an international e-bike trail network to grow both sides of the Wanda Fuca corridor through clean and green, responsible tourism activities such as e-biking, and to explore options to establish a local bioregion marine education center in the Sooke region. That is not going to be a cheap development process. But it is something that we have heard from having various engagement sessions throughout both sides of the strait, that having a marine education center on the Sooke side to match that on the Pacific Northwest side would be complementary. And we're working in collaboration with Destination Greater Victoria to address the South Island hotel needs. Director of Planning Chris Marshall sits on that committee. I back him up when he's not able to be there. And the last meeting I was at just before Christmas, I put it on the table to keep Sooke top of mind. We know we need and can use more than one hotel. And so it's very clear to that working committee that 5 new hotels are needed in the Greater Victoria area. But I'm really pressing the point that Sooke is very interested in seeing at least one of those hotels come to our area. So, and we've just recently, as previously mentioned through Jaden, that the provincial REDIP 2026 grant application has gone in, thanks to our new senior planner. And that will support a Sooke employment land use strategy should we be approved for that grant. The interesting thing about that REDIP grant is it is specifically targeted for the use of developing an employment land use strategy. So we should be in the right ballpark for this. And that should produce the highest clean and green job outputs for the lowest footprint. So for the next focus areas coming up in July 25, the province created a new category for the REDIP funding, thereby allowing the district of Sooke to become eligible to apply for REDIP funding. That's the first time that Sooke has ever been permitted to submit under that particular funding stream at the provincial level. And because of that, and recognizing that Sooke is not urban, it's more rural than urban. And that category they created allows for that type of a municipality. So for 2026, we believe it is now the right time to challenge the provincial CRD ruling, urban versus rural, specific to Island Coastal Economic Trust funding program. And what I'd like to work on is going forward to further discussions about Sooke becoming eligible for membership under the ICE-T program. That would have to be implemented by the District of Sooke Council to direct staff to process the request eligibility through the province. The network, I've just shown you here a bit about the types of relationships and networks that it takes to deliver on community economic development. It goes everywhere from arts, culture, tourism, marketing, food production, security, community service agreements, business, government, and economic development agencies and trusts. Operational alignment, the CED function and initiatives aligns with the district's commitment to foster a vibrant local economy by supporting small businesses, promoting tourism, and investing in key infrastructure improvements. Economic development economic diversification and enhancing Sooke's appeal as a destination for both visitors and entrepreneurs are key focal points of the District of Sooke CED strategy. What we've heard through various engagement surveys over the last current year and past year is that 65.8% of those surveyed or responding to surveys were satisfied with the services delivered under the CED program, and 34.2% are dissatisfied. I'm not happy with that, but it's work in progress, and it is a new department, and it is being delivered by one person. Operationally, the CED services and delivery through my department through Q1 and Q3 2005, 12,215 external emails were received, 1,821 internal emails were received, 189 phone calls were handled. I'm more of a text and email person than a phone person, as you can tell. And I prepared 5 agendas for 5 Community Economic Development Standing Committee meetings. And I'm also the project lead and steering committee chair for the Juan de Fuca Bioregion Cross-Border Tourism Project, and one of 3 founding directors for the Shoreline Business Services Co-op, which we are still working on. Key indicators of success for this CED department of the planning and development. For 2023, I was able to garner $175,000 in grant money through Destination BC and Pacifican to develop a renewed District of Sooke tourism plan that was worth $100,000. And I was also able to garner $75,000 for a Juan de Fuca Tourism Corridor Plan Consulting Services. 2024, I garnered $300,000 from Destination Canada. It was $250K from Destination Canada and $15,000 for the Juan de Fuca Cross-Border Consulting Services. And in 25, $3,500 was leveraged by the province to approve the DOS MRDT application in July of 25. That collection started in actually late October of 2025 to the end of December 2025. Slow months, yes, and a little bit behind because of the provincial employment strike. But we've already received our very first check for MRDT hotel tax collection. So that's good news. And we can see that 2026 has the ability to garner up a minimum $400,000 in expected revenue from the MRDT hotel tax. It'll likely be higher, but in weighing on conservative figures, I'd rather go with a lower number than quote something that we can't reach. But the first year of managing the MRDT internally will provide us all this information that we need in year one. And that's the end of my presentation. Should you have any questions, I'll be pleased to answer anything. Thank you.
Through the chair, my name is Tristan Hammersley, I'm your chief building official. I'm going to provide the budget overview for the building safety services. Service, we ensure that all construction and renovation projects in Sooke meet the BC Building Code and local bylaws as required by provincial legislation. The service areas cover energy compliance through the BC Step Code, safety and accessibility as per BC Building Code, application forms and guides, making the process easier for applicants, building code updates and education, keeping the community informed, coordination with Sooke Fire Rescue or Fire Code, building license approvals, supporting local businesses compliance, department referrals, internal review, providing early input. Personnel and budget. The team is comprised of the chief building official. We have a building official 2 and building official 1 who is currently studying for level 2 building official. Planning and development administrator, which is a shared resource with our planning department. The budget operates on a cost recovery basis, funded through permit and inspection fees paid by those who use the service, and represents just over 1% of the total operating budget. Highlights and achievements of 2025. We have a new chief building official, myself, hired as of June. We have a full complement of staff, which I hear was a long time coming. Increase engagement efforts with the Sooke Builders Association, improved consistency of review and inspection, and greater focus on customer first service. Our 2026 priorities, we're hoping to have a review of the building bylaw, modernization and synchronization with regional standards, digital permitting and digital plan review, of which Sooke is still in the paper category, which is not consistent with other communities in the area. Information bulletins and community education, which we would like to, moving forward, produce for the community, and continuing professional development of our members or of our staff. Service drivers and challenges. The organizational drivers, of course, changes in the BC Building Code. 2024 was the most recent update. Growing community and corresponding service expectations and clarifying code expectations in the community. Financial pressures include an increase in commercial and mixed-use multifamily developments, commitment to avoid service reductions even as demands rise with a growing population, and changing skill and knowledge requirements for modernized codes. Business continuity and capacity include changing requirements on a provincial level, training staff to consistently deliver services, encouraging customer-first policy to help the community complete projects to required safety standards. Our key indicators, the building officials handling almost equal amount to our admin, which is call out to our admin staff, 10,000 emails, over 10,000 emails received and 6,000 emails sent. Building officials received 555 phone calls and called out 821 times. The admin staff taking again the lion's share at 628 received and 212 sent. Total number of permits for 2025 was 207, and the total value of construction was almost $65 million. You can look at the rest of the numbers here. I'd like to bring focus on the residential numbers, of course, having our lion's share, and commercial is picking up from what I can see over time. And of course, our new units approved split between multi-use or multifamily and mixed use, 29 permits with new multifamily and mixed use residential, or sorry, new approved multifamily and mixed use excluded 29 permits. So that would be your single family and duplexes. Whereas in the multifamily and mixed use, only 154 permit or units approved. So here are the historical numbers. Don't want to take too much time. You can look over this, a lot of details. The numbers do fluctuate from year to year, but over the last few years, we have had a drop in total fees collected due to the building market. Markets are what drive how building permits work. And then I would also like to sort of take a moment to say that the building department doesn't build homes. So we are just processing permits for clients who wish to proceed with building projects. We can see we had community contacts. 28 of the 30 comments speak to asking the district to stop building. And as I said before, the building department is not in charge of building. Decrease building permits and new neighborhoods, housing developments until infrastructure, traffic situations improved was a common comment. Stop approving building permits until road and infrastructure has been expanded. The two other specific comments, Sooke is in such a beautiful area of the world. We should be capitalizing on the natural beauty, minimizing the sprawl and working with the footprint that exists. Developers should be held to an extremely high standard, building green, i.e. green roofs, solar panels, living walls, permeable pavement, and Sooke could be a showcase for how living on the island should be. And our last comment, funnel all money collected from the building permits to traffic, bridge and connectors. We are still not at cost recovery, so we're not actually generating profits as building safety. Our response, Building Safety Services is responsible for enforcing the BC Building Code and local bylaws as required by provincial legislation. We do not have the authority to approve or deny development based on infrastructure concerns. Our role is to ensure projects meet safety and accessibility standards. Our team is committed to a customer-first approach, helping applicants understand requirements and supporting them in progressing their projects within their rights. Thank you.
Just briefly, the next presentation, final presentation in this package is from the fire department. So I don't know if you want to pause here and if council has any planning questions, then we can get into Chief Kennedy and the fire one.
Okay, sure. Well,
Thank
let's do that. That council receive the service level overview reports and presentations for information for community planning, community economic development, and building safety. That's moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Questions or comments, Councillor Pearson?
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the presentations. A question to Mr. Riley. So, and maybe it's for everybody in the department. So you talked a little bit about the OCP and the implementation of some of the and also the DPAs that are going to come up. And there's right now we've heard from one presentation tonight. We've received a fair amount of correspondence on the unclarity of the tree bylaw that is buried in the DPAs. So is there a way for us to bridge that gap from a department like a grace period so that we could go back, review what it is, where the unclarity is coming from? We've heard, young families, we've seen hazards. I got a phone call yesterday from one of my Cecino's moms about a dangerous tree leaning over River Road. So there seems to be some angst in the community, and it's real. People are not able to work. People are afraid to cut down trees. People are afraid that the tree might fall on their house. So how do we, through your department, how do we bridge that? Do you have a solution for that? That's my question. Do you have a solution that we could say, we put stuff on hold or a grace period until we get it out there, more communication to people, how they're going to be affected? So that's my big, long question.
Yeah, through the mayor. So there is no grace period potential, right? Like once the OCP is adopted, the development permit areas take effect immediately. In terms of bridging the gap, though, as part of our rollout, we've been creating information bulletins just to make it very clear in certain scenarios when a development permit is triggered or when a property owner will be eligible for an exemption, and then what that looks like. So, and we've been taking lots of correspondence on this as well as council. Staff have been involved with this as well, but we need to look at sites on a case-by-case basis to make those determinations. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you for what I was expecting as an answer. Is there a way for us?
Counselor, can I remind you to direct the
Oh, yeah,
comments to
sorry,
me?
through you. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So my next question, is there something we could do to alleviate this pain in the short term? Because there's people who are not getting dangerous trees cut down. What's that?
You saw my motion.
Yes, I did. So,
Okay, let's not get
Okay.
into that. That'll come later.
okay.
So,
Community planning, I have a question for community.
but I think you wanted an answer to that, so I'll ask staff that. If you want to re-ask that, you're asking.
Is there?
Using.
Could staff come up with a recommendation to bridge this gap of uncertainty? We're in tree danger season right now. Heavy rainfalls. We've seen trees falling down. I walked the Galloping Goose as well as my partner to my right, Councillor Beddoes. There's numerous trees falling all the time right now. This is the height. I think council needs to do something politically. Is there a way for us to bridge that in the short term? Does staff have an interim solution so we can work through this? That's my question.
I'll ask staff.
Yeah, through the mayor and us, Ms. Marshall can add to my points here, but what we're doing is basically trying to provide information as soon as possible to individuals with inquiries. Again, not all activities require a development permit or confirmation that an exemption exists. So yeah, we're happy to take comments or questions from the public and address their concerns as soon as possible. So, yeah.
Okay, Counselor St. Pierre.
So I have to go through one section at a time because I have questions.
Oh, okay, you had a few others,
Yep.
okay.
Okay. So
Go
this,
ahead.
yep, so this question is to Ms. Scott.
But you still need to direct the
Oh, through
questions
you,
to
you
me
know, the
because
question
we're sitting
through
in-
you to Ms. Scott.
Yeah, so direct them to me and then the staff will answer.
To our
I get what you're
economic-
saying, but the conversation is at council, so you need to direct it to us.
Yep.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So we implemented the MRDT, you said October to December. When did we start collecting it? Because I've had a call that said they felt it was retroactive to our decision. Is that, so when did council make that determination? That's my first question.
We just need to find a microphone.
The province requested that the district of Sooke start collecting the MRDT as of November 1st, 2025. However, the payment we just received in early January indicated there was some collection done in October. But because of the provincial employee strike, everything was delayed. The letters didn't get out to the accommodators on time. Prestigian, for example, said, Gail, we can't possibly start charging 3% on clients that booked previous to the collection starting and having no notice. So it was a bit of a schmozzle, let's just put it that way. And it is the province that is in charge of collecting the money. They have the system in place. So all I can tell you is I know from a letter we received from the province, it stated that around $3,400 was received from October till December in collection of a 3% hotel tax in Sooke. That said, those are slow months and there was so many delays and things. Looking at a full year from January to December of 26, I think we'll see a very healthy revenue in hotel tax coming in.
Okay, and through the chair. So if someone felt they had collected the tax too early, or is there an avenue for them to complain? Who does that go to? To the province or back to the district?
Yes, there is an avenue, and I have dealt with 2 of those complaints right now.
Okay.
And the avenue is that they have to go back to the province of BC, and there is a specific department, a specific person that handles those complaints. And I have provided that name and contact information for whoever has contacted me to register their concerns or their complaints.
Thank you.
Okay.
My next question is for for the lead building inspector, Mr. Hammersley, through the chair. One of the things that's come up over my numerous times on council is about securing building officials. Is there a opportunity to have an apprentice building inspector within the district, or do you have to come with qualifications? Do we have a way of giving education? So maybe that can go to the CAO.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
through the Building Association of British Columbia, there is a building official and training system that is done. It's possible, of course, it would just be additional staff. In larger communities, often the front staff is staffed by lower level building officials that are in training. There is a system for it, yeah.
Thank you. That's all my questions, actually.
Okay, Counselor St. Pierre. Microphone.
My question will wait until later when we look at the tree bylaw.
Okay, and that's just correspondence.
I understand.
Yes. Counselor Bateman.
Oh, sure. Thank you, everyone, for those really in-depth presentations. Mr. Riley, I'm excited about this zoning bylaw update. Now, will you be taking the 2014 zoning bylaw and putting it through a full, explain the process that we'll see in the year ahead?
Yeah, through the mayor. So we'll be looking at tackling the zoning bylaw update maybe in maybe two parts. The first would be somewhat of a patchwork to address some housekeeping items, and I think we'll see that coming in the next couple months. That's my plan anyway. We'll be coming to committee for direction on that. And then there'll be a more fulsome update to the zoning bylaw to maintain consistency with the official community plan. So there's some zones that now don't necessarily align with the land use designations. So that's just, I think, a common result of having an OCP adopted with an older zoning bylaw. So we just be looking at making some additional changes to bring out some consistency in that bylaw. Before doing maybe in 2027 a much more fulsome new bylaw number zoning bylaw update. So maybe a three-pronged approach over two years. But yeah, it will go through a public process with first, second reading, public hearing would be required as well before council would consider that for third and adopt.
So it would be through that third phase in 2027 that we get into the subject of pre-zoning and strategic application of zoning in the town center in particular.
Through the mayor, so it would be at the discretion of council, of course. Yeah.
You're good. Counselor Haldane.
Yes, thank you. So when we had one of the speakers up at the public session, he pointed out a bunch of the problems he was having with the tree bylaw. But and we were told at the OCP meeting from Chris through the mayor that the document belongs to us. So if we need to make changes, we need to ratify things, we need to tweak stuff. The document belongs to council, so council can overhaul, I guess, or make motions to make things more clear, more amicable, better, and so on. So, I mean, I'm thinking we're probably in a situation with these trees that we're going to have to come up with something, a motion that we craft or something to make the OCP fit what's actually going on in the district. And it's only been quite early and we're already running into problems with some of the DPA situations in there. One of the other things that came up, and he talked about his qualifications, and he went through a litany of things that he's done, gone to school, Camosun College, so on. But I didn't hear ISA certified. Why are we sticking to ISA certification as being the only way you can be qualified to be a tree arborist? Why can't it be one of the many other ways of being a tree specialist, horticulturist, and so on? I mean, you're a licensed tree faller, you're certified by a compensation board, by a bunch of different authorities as well. Can we come up with a little bit more of a blanket for somebody who could qualify for this position?
That was a question you're asking.
Yeah, how did we
staff about
stick,
the
how did we
okay.
get just one educational place instead of a number of them?
Yes, so through the mayor, at council's discretion, we can make changes to the bylaw. So I think this is just a best practice, and what you see reflected in other municipalities is the ISA certification. But I would have to perhaps look into that a little bit further to understand the differences in certifications across arborists.
Yeah. I mean, we want to have as many people qualified out there helping out citizens as we can to pinpoint just one educational group as the only one that didn't make sense to me in this case, because everybody comes from different educational backgrounds. But if we could work on that, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round two.
Round two, Counselor Bateman.
Yeah, so over to Ms. Scott and your remarkable work you're doing over there, as I say often. I'm curious about these big ticket items that are emerging from your Destination Canada study. That is the Bioregional Marine Education Center, the International E-Bike Trail Network, and electrified transit ferry service. So these are really big ticket, long game items. Will Destination Canada come and speak to us?
Through the mayor to council, yes. Destination Canada, Dylan Rose, who is the lead on this project, has offered to come out and speak to council and do a presentation, provide them a slide deck on the program and what we've accomplished so far. And yes, they are big ticket items. There's 4 of them, and they are not inexpensive. But we made headways on 2 of them so far, and we haven't really even announced our launch. And the reason for the development of the e-bike program is because we have somebody locally who has an e-bike company and a incredible background in tourism and biking, touring, and is working day in and day out with our Pacific Northwest partners. And they've already designed and come up with a full circle tour with mobile kiosks for the summer, for bike rentals that are going to be complimentary on both sides. And this is Alpine bike tours. So it's wonderful that we have that kind of talent and expertise in Sooke locally, because it helped to launch that one particular investment project right away. The electrified ferry is a pilot project, no question. But next week, we have a meeting with the company, which is called Future Marine, who is the sponsor of this electrified ferry pilot project, to meet with Innovate BC to talk funding. And so it is slow, but and because it's a very expensive project. But we are moving forward, and there's a strong interest at all levels of government for it, and they see it as a way of the future, which it is. And I think we're going to make some progress. If the first pilot would be testing a run between sort of downtown Sooke and East Sooke, almost like a electrified water taxi, and just do it over the summer and maybe down in and around the channel as a tourism project. If that proves to be in demand and supported, then we'll be looking at a much larger route that would go from Sooke to Esquimalt Harbor and take in Colwood, because Colwood's interested in being part of this as well. So those are big projects. The Marine Education Center is going to take millions. And so we're going to have to really work collaboratively with all levels of government and private sector, because there's got to be private sector dollars in there to see if we can potentially find some investors that would support the development of a center like that in the Sooke region. Again, we have to look at where is it going to be and is the land available. So yeah, they're all projects, but they're not standing still, believe me. They're all in the works.
Okay, but thank you, Gail. That is good news all around. I'm curious on a more achievable scale. You've asked the Island Coastal Economic Trust, ICT. What can council do to help you ensure that we are a member of this group? What are you asking us to do?
What I would like to ask council is to direct staff to work with ICT, Brody Guy, who is the executive director for ICT, to approach the provincial government, and again, it's the Ministry of Jobs and Economic Growth, and approach the minister and ask them to revisit the ruling that prohibits Sooke from being eligible for funding under that program. If Nanaimo and Campbell River and Comox can get it, and they're not what I consider to be rural, then I don't understand why Sooke can't. And because we've created this new category, I believe, and so does Brody Guy, I believe that this is the time to make that approach to province, especially during the election, this being an election year, to try and get it through. So if you could direct staff to follow through in an approach that is approved by council, we'll do it.
Okay, motion
It
and
may just be like a motion that we direct staff to bring a report back is what we would need. Okay. All right, Councillor Beddoes for a first time and then Pearson for a second.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things said about this quasi tree law bylaw and I'm a little confused. So I would like some clarification from staff. Because my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I've been wrong before, is that a homeowner was exempt from this so-called tree bylaw. It was only on development permits and these DPAs. And the exemptions were if you were just a homeowner and you wanted to go prune some trees or take something down, you did not have to get a permit. That's my understanding of it. Am I correct or is it different?
Yeah, you're correct. So, sorry, through the mayor, the OCP is not a tree bylaw. Firstly, so the OCP establishes development permit areas that require additional review when there's land alteration occurring on site. So for areas that are near riparian areas like streams or near the foreshore, if a homeowner wants to remove trees on their property, we would want to confirm they're either a danger tree or they would have to go through a development permit process, right? If they live on properties inland, for example, and want to remove trees, there's a very high likelihood they don't require either. So there's no tree bylaw as part of this OCP. Just want to be clear with that.
Okay, to hear what you just said, and I think I understand you, is if you're on Maple Avenue and you have a tree that you want to take down, maybe you just don't even like it, do you have to get a permit? You're saying no.
Well, it depends again if there's a stream.
It's a riparian area.
Yeah, riparian area, environmentally
it's
sensitive.
eco-sensitive, but there's
That's correct.
nothing like that. Somebody's got an alder tree in their front yard. They don't have to go out and get a permit and get a certified arborist or whatever it is or anything. It's just pretty straightforward. They just chop it down.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay. I just wanted, I understand that the DPAs and things like that. There's some sensitive stuff down by the water, which may need stuff. But it sounded to me like that there was a tree bylaw that was coming in and that anybody and anywhere in Sooke would have to get a permit. And that is not the case. And I just want to nip that in the bud now.
Yeah.
Within our correspondence, there is a writer who has written in a draft tree bylaw that resident is advocating us to implement.
I understand that, but I
That is it's a piece of correspondence for discussion tonight.
So I guess that, again, the clarification, because I'm hearing something from my colleague here. If this person on Maple Avenue is not in an environmentally zone, would he have to come to the district and say, I want to cut down a tree, or he could just cut it down?
Through the mayor, he could cut it down, but I would recommend before any form of land alteration, it's good to check in with the district to double check.
Well, then that needs to be clarified because I'm not happy with that. But thank you for your comment. I mean, I appreciate that. I wanted you to clarify that. Thank you.
Councillor Pearson and then St. Pierre.
Through the chair, a little bit going a different direction, through the chair to our Director of Finance, our Chief Building Inspector, our Chief Building Official, said that there's $65 million of value have been applied for under taxes. What does $65 million translate into taxes coming in the door? And when do we expect to get those in a, and I don't expect it to have, is there a formula that we've increased our role by $65 million assets, not land, $65 million worth of permits? And how long does it take before that actually shows up on the bottom line? through the chair to our Director of Finance.
Okay, well, I'll ask, maybe our CAO can take a start with that.
I was just gonna say through your worship, Councilperson, I would suggest if we can just take that comment or question away and bring it back as part of the budget conversations, just to do some detailed calculations, but annually, it's recognized through the non-market change revenue that's received by the district every year. So that number fluctuates every year depending on the permits issued and occupancy, et cetera. So we can do a bit more research on that and provide a bit more clarifying details. I just don't want to misspeak at this time.
Yeah, and I recognize that's a complex question. It's just, is there a thumbnail kind of sketch that we say, we got a $65 million worth of applications this year? Do we expect to get that in revenue in 2027? And how much would it approximately be? I don't want it to boil out to anything. I'm just curious on that.
For sure, we can analyze the BC assessment data and provide a bit more information.
Okay, a bit more to come on that. Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
Thank you, Worship. Through your worship to staff, I just want to follow up on Councillor Beddoes' question, because that's actually the question I was going to ask later, or the clarification I was looking for later. And at this point, would like some clarification from staff, because my understanding is that the request or the opinion of staff is that it's a nice idea to come to staff and ask about land alteration, but we don't have a tree bylaw, so there's no need to do so if you're not in a riparian area or an environmentally sensitive area. Is that correct, Your Worship?
Yeah, through the mayor, that's correct. You don't have to come to the district, but I think it's just good practice. And like with any land alteration, if you are grading a site, you don't necessarily have to come to the district, but it's probably good to check in to confirm if you're in a development permit area, to call BC1 to confirm if there's gas lines. It's just due diligence from a landowner's perspective that is recommended.
So if I understand correctly, it is the opinion of staff that it is wise to get more information before undertaking land alteration, but it is not necessary because there's no tree bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call a question. Right now, we're just receiving this for information. So all those in favor, please. And that's any opposed? That's carried unanimously. We'll move on to our next one, which is the fire service area overview.
So good evening through the chair to members of council and to the public that have joined us tonight. It's my pleasure to bring the 2025 service area overview for the District of Sooke's Fire Protective Service. My name is Wayne Kennedy. I'm the fire chief here. And with me tonight is Chris McRae, our deputy fire chief here in Sooke. So we are a full service, all hazard department, protecting lives, property, and the environment through emergency response, fire prevention, public education, and community partnerships. Within our identified service areas, we have fire response, rescue, which includes fires, medical emergencies, vehicle collisions, technical rescues throughout the District of Sooke, as well as surrounding areas through our mutual aid agreements. Our department's training is guided by the Office of the Fire Commissioner and their minimum training standards for a full service fire department, along with standards from the National Fire Protection Agency. We also actively support our staff in professional development to help build a stronger team, improve our service delivery, and provide job satisfaction within our organization. Our emergency planning and preparedness program follows the 4 pillars of emergency management. These guide us in our planning to avoid hazards and lessen their impacts before an event takes place. We develop plans and we train to be able to effectively manage an emergency when it happens. We take action to respond, and then we work to rebuild and restore our community after an event. We are also mandated under the Fire Service Act to provide a system of fire inspections. Our staff conduct building inspections, enforce the BC Fire Code, and help reduce risks through education and awareness programs. And we also work closely with residents and businesses to identify hazards and promote safe practice. We promote prevention and preparedness through programs such as Fire Smart, fire safety presentations, school visits, and station tours and community events. And along with this, we also provide free smoke alarm checks and installation for residents in need of assistance and complimentary car seat inspections and installation guidance to ensure our children are safe on our roads. Within our exempt structure, you'll find the fire chief and deputy fire chief along with an emergency program manager. We have a unionized personnel with 12 career suppression firefighters, a training officer, and a fire inspector, life safety educator, fire smart coordinator, which is one person, by the way, with a lot of hats. We also have fire service assistant, 23 paid on-call firefighters, an emergency support service director, and 24 dedicated ESS volunteers. And we are roughly 16% of the district's operating budget. So highlights for 2025 and achievements within our emergency program include working to achieve compliance with the new requirements set out with the new Emergency and Disaster Management Act, otherwise known as EDMA. So one of these requirements was met when we introduced the emergency program strategic plan that spans from 2025 to 2027 and forms a framework of the additional planning that's taking place here in 2026. Our legislative requirement has been met. We continue to exercise the plan through emergency operations centered exercising and staff training. Another EDMA requirement is for climate adaptation and natural hazard risk assessment for our municipality. We are currently utilizing a provincial grant for $150,000 to fund this work required to complete the hazard assessment for the community. And it's well underway with a completion date of August of this year. And then following the completion of that hazard risk assessment, we're going to start work on a new business continuity plan, which is another requirement from the Emergency Disaster Act. Also within EDMA, there's an identified area for Indigenous engagement. We currently utilize provincial grants of $48,000 a year over the last 2 years, where we're involved in a regional project that's underway, which includes 13 local governments, the CRD, and an engagement intention for 19 Indigenous governing bodies. And this is for the purpose of improving and creating relationships and increasing emergency management coordination and cooperation. We also continue to support our staff in cultural safety and Indigenous engagement. Our Sooke Emergency Support Services utilized annual provincial grants of $40,000 in 2025, and we have additional applications for funding in 2026. We started the creation of a dedicated ham radio group, which is a shortwave radio group. We started modernizing our equipment that we use when we support evacuees in reception centers. We had dedicated public engagement through markets, school visits, and targeted events. And we continue to work on our volunteers training with exercising and team building. And then specific to our Emergency Operations Center, again, utilizing provincial grants of $40,000 in 2025 and the intention to apply for additional funding in 2026. We have a modern, fully outfitted Emergency Operations Center with new hardware and software. We continue to engage our staff in EOC training with ongoing and comprehensive sessions planned for February 2026. And local and regional plans that are in place are continually being exercised and updated. "2025 highlights and achievements within our fire rescue division include the results of our recent engagement with the community and what we heard. And we are quite proud of the 92% satisfaction rate for service delivery. This was a great pulse check for us and an indication of how we're performing in the public. We also had the delivery and placement of service of our Squad 1 truck, which is pictured on our slide. This truck replaced our old brush truck and has proven to be very versatile in its use, responds to wildfires, medical incidents, structure fires, and incidents at properties with rural driveways with limited access. We successfully completed our Superior Tanker Shuttle Service reaccreditation. This accreditation is recognized equivalency to hydrant protection in areas that don't have hydrants, and property owners and communities with this accredited Superior Tanker Shuttle Service are eligible for improved property insurance rates like those in communities with municipal type water supply systems. We're also continually implementing our new record management system. We utilized around $28,000 of grant funding to renovate our decontamination room at Station 1, which brings it up to the most recent health and safety standards. We conducted 7,686 hours of department training over several disciplines. And also, we are successfully trained 8 new recruits to a firefighter level 2 standard, which they are now actively responding in our community. We have 7 additional recruits that have commenced training this year, on track to complete their firefighter level 2 by June of 2026. And for reference, this is around 250 hours of training per person to achieve that certification and to begin responding within our community. We also provided confined space training for all of our career staff, which is part of a phased training approach as we start building capacity to be able to provide this specialized service to our municipal wastewater and infrastructure operations, and helping to provide a cost-effective solution to their work-safe obligations for rescue on site. And then in collaboration with our neighboring fire departments and the CRD, we renewed our auto aid agreement for response to fires within our municipalities. And then lastly, we've initiated our order to replace our engine 2, which should be delivered sometime first quarter this year. So highlights and achievements within our fire prevention division. We completed the reporting requirements for our 2023 Fire Smart grant and started and implemented the new 2025 and 2026 Fire Smart grant, starting from draft to completion and successful approval of around $400,000 to be utilized over the next 2 years. We made some critical infrastructure upgrades to our Station 2. This process was from planning to approval and execution, and also used grant funding as a portion of these upgrades. We are part of the Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Collaborative Group, which is a South Island collective of Fire Smart coordinators working together to share expertise and cost savings towards a common goal. And they successfully launched a Fire Smart wildfire public education video last year. The link is on our Sooke website if anyone's interested. It's actually really well done. We started the build out of what's known as the Community Connect portal. This is a secure online portal that will engage residents and businesses to build individual profiles within our record management system. This can be used to share life safety information, provide emergency communications, contact and occupancy information for businesses, as well as used as a self-service portal for inspections, permits, and invoicing. So part of the new requirements from the Fire Safety Act, we took on a major overhaul of our inspectable property list, which encompassed closing a whole bunch of inactive files, separating home-based businesses into self-reporting categories, and then amalgamating multiple businesses into inspectable parent properties to make it easier for us to track. And then we've also transitioned our inspection database to our new records management system, and then have built out the inspection module ready for our 2026 fire code inspections. With that redesign, we've now implemented a new company inspection program, which divides out realistic inspection capabilities for our on-shift crews to complete, and then allows for the more complex inspections to be completed by our fire inspector. So, and then initial work has started on the development of a new pre-plan template, which we use to pre-plan all of our complex buildings, both incident response and for inspection purposes. So priorities for 2026, and in alignment with council's strategic priorities for community well-being and safety, We are planning revisions to our current fire protection service bylaw with some updates required within the new Fire Safety Act now in force. It's a time and the opportunity for us to review the bylaw and make any changes where required. Similar to that, in the fire bylaw, we're reviewing emergency program bylaw with new changes to EDMA. There are some revisions that we'll need to do and review for that as a whole. We are continuing with the emergency programs and strategic initiatives into 2026, along with the completion of the hazard risk assessment. And then once completed, the initial work begins on a new business continuity plan. As this is our first year of our fire inspection program, along with the introduction of self-assessments for small business, we plan to audit the performance of this program. As mentioned, 2025 saw an update to our risk-based inspections with complex and high-risk inspections completed by our inspector and lower risk by our fire crews. So, and then we are moving towards a more cost-effective in-house training program to maximize opportunities to train on shift for our fire crews and in our response area to lessen the costs that we experience when we send personnel out to third-party training. We've also submitted an application for grant funding to help procure a training prop for Station 1, which also allows crews additional opportunities to practice their firefighting techniques while still remaining within the district's response area. Currently, we're reliant on our limited monthly training days that we have at Otter Point facility. So we're also exploring the process of our fire underwriters grading review. And a lot's changed since the last time we've done this. So I think it's important for us and for the public to understand what the significance of this fire underwriters grading is and then what we currently have and what that means to us and to them as a homeowner. Some might wonder about the value and the portion of property taxes that each household contributes to maintaining a fire service. The fire underwriters provides data on public fire protection for fire insurance statistical work and underwriting purposes and represents 90% of the private sector property and casualty writers in Canada. They conduct a risk assessment of our municipality and they evaluate the adequacy of response by comparing the potential severity of fires that may occur with the rating of the ability of the fire crews and their resources that respond within a specific time period and relative to the fire and life safety risk that might be needed. They then assess the data and they formulate this grade for the municipality and they provide that to the insurers who use it in part to set our insurance rates. So the fire department makes up 60% of that overall weighting that forms that grade. And in general, fire underwriters estimates that a community which achieves full protected status, such as what we are here in Sooke, can enjoy savings on insurance of up to 60% versus communities that are rated as unprotected. And then the average savings for commercial and multifamily can range between 20 and 35%. So now this is a complex system and we provide estimates only because we just don't have access to how the companies actually use this information. They all utilize it a bit different. But what we do know is that for a department like us, we have a really good rating. So not only does the fire department provide a high level of service, but there's a secondary benefit in that the aggregate savings on the insurance premiums offsets the cost of operating our department. So we also continue to work towards the recommendations from our master fire plan in 2023. In collaboration with our communications manager and our GIS department, we're working on a grant-funded next-gen 911 residential address signage program, along with replacement of some of the mobile data terminals on our frontline apparatus. Those are the computers we use for incident response. We continue with our public education, our safety education opportunities, and then utilization of grant funding opportunities of around $335,000 in grants that are either approved or in the application stages for this year. So as a fire service, we're constantly adapting to change. And these can be provincial and federal changes such as Bill 44, the Fire Safety Act or the Emergency Disaster and Management Act. We see regulatory changes to our applicable fire and our building codes, updates to standards such as the National Fire Protection Association, which guides the best practice in the fire service, WorkSafe BC compliance, and then comprehensive training program requirements to align with the full service fire department declaration and conducted in accordance with the Officer of the Fire Commissioner's minimum training standards. So within the growth and development of our community, there's a corresponding expectation from the public related to the level of service provided by the fire department. All of these changes in the public expectation drive our strategic shift to our current model of 24/7 continuous fire protection. And in order for us to maintain our fire department standards and a high level of service, we need to ensure we consistently meet our relevant regulatory and compliance requirements. We will continue to advocate for staffing and operational supports with a focus on recruitment and retention, along with prioritizing the safety and well-being of our employees. As a result of these organizational drivers and the need to maintain our service level and capacity, we recognize that there are financial pressures. Input prices such as cost pressures like materials, labor, and production costs used to produce goods which directly influence the cost to purchase, combined with supply chain and delivery delays. This has led to changes in consumer behavior and price acceptance. Ultimately, these inflationary costs are borne by the consumer, and as a small municipality, this greatly impacts our operational and capital budgets. Collective agreements put pressure on municipal budgets with negotiated wages and benefits and working conditions. And as our community continues to grow, both in number of people and as well as building stock, we can expect to see continued increases in incident response and call volumes, increased need for pre-plans and building familiarization, and an increased number of inspections and compliance. These demands not only take budget resources, but also time, capacity, and availability of personnel. So some of the key metrics that we look at for 2025 is that we responded to 1,430 emergency calls and 152 non-emergency calls, which is around a 4% increase compared to last year. We did 7,686 hours of departmental training, conducted 249 fire inspections and 45 business plan reviews, 39 fire smart assessments, which includes both home assessments and mitigation specialist assessments, 34 public engagement and education events, which includes safety events, smoke alarm installs, fire drills, and car seat installations. So when we focus on the community's vision across all engagement streams, residents expressed a clear direction for Sooke's future, as reported in October last year in Budget 2026, what we heard. We can see that council's endorsement of the Fire Master Plan, staffing strategy, and a targeted investment in fire rescue services resulted in the highest service satisfaction of all service areas. Public perception of the service they are getting was a 92% satisfaction rating and support for increased fire service. And as much as we're proud of this rating, a lot of this credit should be directed back to council for their support and their desire to improve the fire service levels that we deliver to the residents of Sooke. So when asked specifically how satisfied they are with the services delivered relative to the monthly property tax amount allocated to each, fire rescue again led all categories with a 74% satisfied or very satisfied, not to be confused with the overall satisfaction of the 92.7%. Community priorities showed strong support for continued investment in fire rescue and emergency preparedness as our community grows, while focusing on balanced service delivery with the department's operational needs and utilizing all available grant funding opportunities. We are championing fiscal responsibility while still providing high service levels and maintaining strong public safety and emergency planning. In 2025, we utilized $506,000 grant funding to accomplish capital projects, purchase equipment, and enhance our service to the public. Our service level and strong public safety and emergency service is directly related to our commitment to training and maintaining our skills outlined in the Office of the Fire Commissioner's minimum training standards. And we recognize the importance of avoiding overstretching our staff, highlighting the importance of health and wellness, professional development, and staff engagement. We prioritize the physical and mental well-being of our staff, along with promote a positive workplace with a high level of job satisfaction. That completes our service review, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. I'll make the same motion there then that council receive the service level overview report and presentation for information. Moved by Councillor moved by Councillor Pearson and seconded by Councillor Pierre. Good grief. Go ahead, Councillor Pearson. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, Chief, through the chair, for the presentation and the work that you do. My personal experience with the fire department, unfortunately, over the last 2 years, we called the ambulance 4 times in our family, and all 4 times the first responders were firemen, and they were extremely well received. So thank you to you and your staff for caring and compassionate response to people who needed it at the time. My question comes back, and I'm sure you get asked this question a lot, is a huge percentage of our calls, or your calls, are first responder in medical aid when an ambulance should be there. And how much stress is that adding to the fire department from a they're hired as firefighters, and they, they're there to respond to immediate accidents and that. But when it's medical calls, does it add to their stress level, like overall their mental well-being? Because it's a lot of calls. 66% of your calls are medical.
Through the chair to Councillor Pearson, this isn't a new model. We've been doing this since I started as a firefighter 30 years ago. So, but to the stress levels, everybody is different, and every individual reacts differently to some of these medical calls that we go to. So it's hard to pinpoint whether or not in a whole that this is a stressful situation. I think what we see is there should be a fine balance of what we deem as our core service, which is fire rescue, and our response to medical, which is meant to be an offset and in support of BC Ambulance. So I don't know what that perfect formula is, but the moment I start to see that it starts taking effect on our personnel, then we'll raise that question and we'll start to look to address it.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
Yeah, through your worship to staff, I was curious about your climate adaptation and natural hazard risk assessment, because often there's a big confusion between adaptation and sequestration or mitigation. What would that encompass? We'll be looking at obviously stormwater. We'd be looking at heat events. What exactly can we expect from that work? Just curious, what's the scope?
Through the chair, a lot of that work is going to look at all hazards that are identified within our community. And then with that, we will look at what are our options in terms of how to address and plan for those.
Thank you. So we're actually looking at potential solutions, best practices, whatever might actually be appropriate, for example, for a hurricane or whatever. Is that what we're looking at here?
Correct. If the odds of us having a hurricane come through Sooke are there, then we're going to look to address it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, it's not so much a question as an observation. You said you had, I think, 156 non-emergency calls, or 153, something like that number. And I just wanted to draw the public's attention to that, because I guess it's only a small thing, but it's a big thing. My wife, who works in a little dress shop, had a lady fall down in the dressing room, rather large lady. My wife couldn't get her up. She phoned the fire department. 2 guys came over and got this lady up, got her out of there safely, and they fixed the door. that you broke on the way down. So it's a little added service. And I just want to say that, you're appreciated in more ways than just on those emergency calls. So thanks.
Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Chief, for such a substantial report. It's a preview, of course, to our provisional budget. So I'm curious about what you will be seeking in this coming budget. I know you've told us before, you need to really deliver 24/7 service through career firefighters. You need 20 firefighters in total, I believe. That's 4 teams of 4 with 4 extras who can cover as needed. You're currently at 12. How do you see building out to a 20-person contingent in this coming year and the years ahead?
Through the chair to Councillor Bateman. A lot of that is obviously factored into the decisions that you guys make in terms of our budgetary constraints. For us, I don't think we are asking for anything within our operating budget in terms of maybe just cost of living adjustments in terms of some of the materials we purchase. And I don't think we're varying from what our endorsed plan was from 2023 when council agreed to our staffing recommendations up to 2027, which was 2 firefighters a year, which brings us to 16. And then obviously when that time comes, we would address the remainder and what works best for the municipality.
Thank you, sir.
Councillor Haldane, anything? Nope. Okay. Councillor Pearson?
Thank you, through the chair. It's going to come up a couple times, and it has tonight. Through the chair to you, Chief, did the department have any input into fire smarting in the words land alteration that's going to come up in our DPA? Like, because it's going to come up as another issue. You know, people want to clear, we had a fire presentation from Fire Smart BC came here, told us that the best thing we can do is around our houses is clear the things immediately around our homes and that interface between the forests. So do you have any input to like exemptions as an example? That would be my question. And it might be a little bit of a loaded question, but.
Through the chair to Councillor Pearson, a little bit. I think when you look at fire smarting, a lot of what our goals are is to manage that initial area around a house and then it expands out. And I don't think we're necessarily advocating for people to cut down a whole bunch of trees if that was part of the equation. We do encourage the disconnect from ground surface fuels to the canopy of trees, and which would be trimming trees up. Other than that, if there's implications that I can't foresee right now, those will be future conversations that I'll have with Madison and obviously Chris as we move forward. And if there's something that we have to bring up, then we'll try and address it with council.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll also note that one of the hazard that there's been some communication on is just some training over at Sea Park for the ammonia potential risk around ammonia leaks. And there's been some added work done there. Sea Park itself, whether it was through the fire inspection, there was a significant change to the arena and the lines because of where it's my understanding that in years past, if the Zamboni had been an inch or so off and ruptured, the line would have leaked right into the facility. And you imagine a game with a full audience, it would have been quite tragic. And that's all been rerouted and changed, different alert systems, different signage and different training exercises. So I understand that there is a good partnership between yourselves with ongoing work as the facility continues to grow and is busy, but just wanted to thank you for flagging that and just the ongoing monitoring of that facility as it's so popular. So thank you for your work. Okay, seeing that there's nothing else, I will call the question here. All those in favor, please. And any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Okay, so council, at this point, we are through our report section. Actually, no, we're not. There's 8.4. But at this point, yes. Oh, yes, there's a secondary motion, sorry, on this 8.3, can you go back, please? So the second part would be that council have staff bring forward to the budget 2026. I think it should be council direct staff to bring forward to the budget 2026 deliberations any financial impacts arising from the service overview discussions. So I'll look for a mover by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Do you wish to comment? Anything further? Nope. All those in favor then? And that's carried unanimously. And in terms of Ms. Gale's ask about the island community act, do you require a motion arising, or is that just a staff report that's going to come forward in terms of? Can that just, do you require a motion for that?
We can bring it forward as a staff report through the
Okay.
mayor, at a later time.
Because it was something that was raised. So yeah, okay, so we can work on together. Okay, thank you. At this point, I'll ask council if you're willing to entertain a 10-minute recess. Okay. Bit of a health break. So it is currently 8:22. We'll reconvene at about 8:32 in 10 minutes, and we'll carry on with 8.4. Okay, thank you. Okay, everyone, we will, if I could get your attention, please, to turn back to the meeting here. We are now on 8.4, which is the proposed amendments to the terms of reference for the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee. Is there a staff report for this? Please go ahead.
Yes, so through the mayor, this is relatively quick. It's largely a housekeeping item. So the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee meets roughly 4 times a year and serves multiple municipalities. As such, any changes to its terms of reference or any recommendations from the committee naturally need to be approved by each participating municipal council. So the proposed amendments are simply to add a formality to have a roundtable discussion to their agenda, as well as to introduce a limited public participation period. And so based on the report, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is simply a housekeeping item. So there's no operational or financial impacts. This just formalizes the practice for the committee.
Okay, so the recommendation or the motion is that council approve amendments to the Capital West Accessibility Advisory Committee terms of reference to 1, add 7, roundtable discussion to section 5.4, order of business, and renumber the subsequent items, and 2, include a public participation portion at committee meetings limited to a maximum of 30 minutes per meeting with individual speakers allotted up to 5 minutes. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Haldane. Any comments, Councillor? Councillor Haldane, anything? Anything from anyone else? Okay, all those in favor, please. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Our next item, please, is zoning amendment or zoning under 9.1 for adoption. So that is that council adopt the zoning amendment bylaw number 927-600-112, 2025 to rezone the property legally described as Lot A, Section 72, Sooke District Plan, EPP 135661, 6579 Throop Road from large lot residential R1 to medium density multifamily 2 RM2 and amend Schedule 303 of zoning amendment bylaw number 600 by adding a site-specific conditional use applicable only to Lot A, Section 72, Sooke District Plan, EPP 135661, to permit a community care facility as an accessory use on the property. Moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Haldane. Anything on adoption? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Did you have a question about this?
I was trying to get my hand up.
I know, but it's adoption, so
I know.
we kind of discussed it in full, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I recall that, did we secure the right of way? Because Troop Road is an important, we've secured the right of way for the whole length, the 2.5 meters or whatever it was, right? Okay. So that's clear that we got that. I just didn't see it in here. Will we secure building that road frontage because of Throop Road at DP stage?
Through the mayor, that'd be at building permit stage.
Okay.
All right. Out of order, but I'll give you a pass because it's our first meeting of the year. Well, usually I know, but that should have been asked at first, second, and third reading. We're just adopting tonight. Okay. All right. 9.2, Development Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 933-900-01, District Notification of Public Information Meetings. So I'll ask staff to take us through this report, please.
I have a brief presentation here as well. Thank you. Yeah, so this agenda item is regarding an amendment to the Development Procedures Bylaw number 900, specifically as it relates to public information meetings. On September 29th, 2025, Council directed staff to prepare amendments to the Development Procedures Bylaw. The intent was to require applicants to notify the district when a public information meeting is scheduled. This would allow the district to provide timely notice of those meetings to council, the Land Use and Development Committee, and the general public, including through posting on the district's website. public information meeting, the public information meeting guide, which was created alongside the development procedures bylaw in 2024, explains that public information meetings are intended to help the community understand development proposals at an early stage before they are considered by council. They also serve as the primary engagement tool in situations where legislation does not allow a public hearing, such as certain residential rezonings that are consistent with the OCP. PIMs are intentionally structured as applicant-led meetings, so they remain intentional or informational rather than decision-making forums. Applicants are required to document public feedback and report it back to staff and council. These are typically included in the first reading reports. Under the current bylaw, notification of PIMs is limited to newspaper advertisements and mailed letters to nearby residents within 100 meters. Council requested greater transparency around when PIMs are scheduled so that council, the Land Use and Development Committee, and the public are aware of when these meetings are taking place. To implement that direction, the proposed amendment would add a new section 20 to the development procedures bylaw, requiring applicants to provide the district with a copy of their PIM notice, including the date it was distributed. This would allow the district to consistently notify council and the LUDC and to post upcoming PIMs on the district's website. The benefits include improved awareness of early community discussions and better insight into public feedback before an application comes forward to council for consideration. Implementation would be straightforward, requiring only minor adjustments to existing internal workflows without creating any new formal process. This slide and the following slide show the existing PIM section in the development procedures bylaw beginning at section 16. This section outlines when a PIM is required primarily for residential development applications with other types of development requiring a PIM at the request of council or district staff. It also confirms that PIMs are applicant-led, meaning the applicant is responsible for organizing the meeting, including selecting the date, time, and location separate from the municipal hall. Finally, it sets out the current advertising requirements, which requires applicants to publish notice of the meeting in 2 issues of the local newspaper prior to the meeting. This slide continues the PIM section of the bylaw and shows the proposed amendment highlighted in red as section 20. The change itself is simple. When an applicant distributes a public information meeting notice under the bylaw, they would also be required to provide the district with a copy of that notice, including the date it was distributed. This allows staff to notify council and the LUDC and to post upcoming PIMs to the district website. Staff's recommendation is to advance the amendment bylaw and direct staff to update internal procedures to support consistent PIM notification. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the recommended motion is that council give first, second, and third reading to Development Procedures Amendment Bylaw number 933 900-01 2025, which adds a requirement for applicants to provide the district with a copy of the public information meeting notice. Should that be 2026?
The bylaw number?
No, because, okay, just checking. All right. Okay, so that's the recommended motion. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
I'd just like to thank staff for the work on this. This came out as comments at committee level that I think Councillor Bate and myself were definitely a part of. And this is responding, I think, in a very elegant way to, I think, the needs of council, the committee, and the community. So thank you.
Councillor Beddoes?
No, I think it's all being said. Thank you.
Okay, comments from anyone else? Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I understand why we're doing it. It's starting to feel like we put bureaucracy on it. It's starting to feel like a public hearing. The level of detail that's in here, public information meetings were supposed to be just that, public information meetings. Now there's a bunch of requirements. The reporting back in a statement without checks and balances, I think is kind of a redundant statement and I think that's on page 1. We must report back. I don't know. It kind of, just a comment. This feels like we're going down that, replacing what the government told us to get rid of. It seems like we're replacing it with this, and it's starting to feel a little bit more bulky. Anyway, that's just a comment. I have no questions.
Okay, no, that's fair. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, so I brought this motion forward and my rationale was, given the province's decision to remove requirements for public hearings, Sooke Council, the Land Use and Development Committee, and citizens living outside the 100-meter notification zone need every opportunity to learn about proposed residential rezonings and question applicants at public information meetings. So I don't, it's certainly not a formal meeting. It's certainly not a public hearing. And I think we, the citizens of Sooke, need to know what's coming down the pipe. And those ads in newspapers tend to get buried at the back, and I kept missing them. So that's why I brought this forward. There is a comment in the staff report around quorum being potentially reached if all of us show up simultaneously. Though I did look up, the Ombudsman has just recently updated his open meetings. And speaks very clearly if there is council cannot materially advance decision-making. So we can't be sitting there gathered in otherwise, I think all is well. The end.
I was at the land use.
So, okay, council members may show up, but in this case, it won't come back to council.
Oh.
Like, well, these developments, if they meet the criteria of the OCP, this is simply awareness in an area of Sooke of what's happening, what's being built on the vacant lots. So it's an opportunity for anyone interested to go and check it out and to ask A, B, and C, like whatever questions they have. And then it moves to staff. So if all of council showed up, it still would never come before this group. This is simply, it'll be resolved by staff, whether we like it or hate it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what we actually think about it. We've adopted the OCP. All of these applications are in line with the OCP. It doesn't come before us ever again.
I thought if it was a development permit in the town center area, for example, it must come to council. And we, as much as there will not be a public hearing for that particular, the head is shaking. So
There's a variant.
again, I'm proving my ignorance.
If there's a variance, well, I think our staff can do this, but the whole intention was that, it started with a review of the public hearing process and how dated it was because it comes so late in the process after applicants have gone through all these things. It comes to finally makes it after 2 years only to be shot down. So then that started the whole review. But in this case, this here, and I support this, is simply an opportunity. Okay, what's happening on this or that vacant lots? There's the time, it's developer led. Go and ask, like, what are you doing? What is it gonna look like? Or have you considered this, or I'm the neighbor here? Just as we hear, have you thought about placement of whatever? And we may or may not be there. And even if we are, it won't come back to us if it meets all of the planning. They will approve it.
Hence the feedback comment that I made earlier.
So the feedback though would then go, if staff see this, what feedback? Let's say there was no parking or minimal parking, that'll be a question that will come up because it's something residents always ask. If there's commercial component, where's the loading going to be? Where are the bike racks? Where's the parking? Is there any parking? Is there guest parking? These are all things that we hear about time and time again that they will then come forward, but ultimately still, if it meets the criteria, nothing changes. If it meets the zoning, then our staff will approve it.
You're on.
So similarly, when the one we just adopted, there were concerns raised by residents that live down Country Road, concerns about school, and I hear all of that, but it wasn't material to that particular development, and it will be approved anyway. Mr. Marshall. There's always the optics though, when quorum of council gather to discuss things, what are you talking about? Are you advancing business and so forth? And we tend to just regulate ourselves.
So just to clarify, Your Worship, that and council, we're talking about a rezoning application here, not a development permit application. There is no public hearing associated with the development permit. The rezoning application would certainly go back to council, that you'd have this meeting, we would get the developer would provide a summary of the input at that meeting, and staff would take that into account when we were providing council with a report at first reading. So we would say, we heard from the developer heard from the public that these were the concerns. This is what we've done to try and address those concerns. And now council, you need to make a decision about this. So it will most certainly will come back to council.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
yes, so I stand corrected. The zoning will, but there will be no public hearing in council. So this is an opportunity for residents to have
Where's the
voice. Just wait. So that's where I'm, anyway, Councillor Beddoes and Pearson.
Thank you.
I, for one, as a counselor, would like to attend one of these things. I like to know about them. That's all. I can choose not to go or to go, but it just helps me to understand what's going on in this community, which I'm charged with looking after. So I am happy with this. I don't think there's any rigmarole or forums or things going on. Just gives us the ability to attend if we so wish. So it's pretty straightforward to me. Support it.
Anything from anyone else? It's just information, and then it proves to staff that they actually had the meeting. And what was heard? Did anyone attend? Something. Call a question. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. New business? Yes. Did I miss something?
The next section of that.
Oh, the other
section you-
part. Okay, seem to move too fast here. And that subject to adoption, staff be directed to update existing internal procedures as appropriate to support timely distribution of public information, meeting notifications to council, the Land Use and Development Committee, and the general public. Moved by Councillor Beddoes, seconded by St. Pierre. Any other comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, no new business. Motion for which notice has been given. So this is a carryover that council approved funding in the amount of 2,500 for the 2026 Wounded Warrior Run BC event and direct staff to report back on options for ongoing annual support. So I will move that as I brought it forward. Is there a seconded by Councillor Pearson? Okay. This event has been occurring in our community for, I don't know, well over a decade now. This supports the Sooke to Sydney run that we advocated to the organizers to include. Many of our local residents who serve in various frontline positions attend and participate in this and are impacted daily by the work that they've done. So I'm in support of this. Councillor Pearson.
Ditto.
Okay. Anything from anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? That too is carried unanimously. Thank you. The event is on February the 1st, I believe, a Sunday, 10 o'clock starts at the Legion. The next is 11.2. That council approved 10,000 from the council contingency fund for organization of the Sooke Region Health Summit in spring 2026. Councillor Bateman provided that notice. I will second it.
All right. Well, in fact, here's how things are moving with that particular health summit. As much as I argued persuasively and got unanimous support to move this to the budget discussions, we have had trouble securing a location. We wanted to do this on a Saturday in the spring. CPark, EMCS are not available. I've not heard back from the community hall or from the association. And we've decided the Prestige is just too expensive and the parking there, the issues, et cetera. So I think that, and since we're looking to move it into the fall, that's in election season. So I think that the general sense is that we will leave this to the next mayor and council to see whether they want to go ahead with a Sooke Region Health Summit. So all that said, I'm withdrawing this motion.
Yep, and I second that.
Easy.
Yeah, and I support withdrawing for the reasons that you had indicated. The first summit came about with extensive work that the Primary Health Working Services Group at the time that I chaired pulled together a significant amount of reports. And our focus right now is on the urgent care center, and pulling that out of the ground. Once that's open, it would make more sense to reevaluate the services, the care, and so on, the unattached range and so on. And it will require visits to hospitals, data dives, all of that extreme amount of work that the next mayor can do, should they so desire. I'll be available if anyone wants resources, but this is not in the cards for this year. So do you, we just want to withdraw it. We can just do that. Okay, done. Next. Correspondence requiring action. So this one here, 12.1, view royal response to Bill M216, Professional Reliance Act. So that is to receive for information, and then we will discuss. So council to receive for information by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Okay, so the last correspondence package we received pre-Christmas, December 9th, that memorable night, that was quite a lively package to me, anyway. One of the pieces I pulled here is a letter from View Royal Mayor Sid Tobias. It's one of the many letters we received on the Professional Reliance Act, Bill M216, a private member's bill introduced by George Anderson. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's certainly a front and center issue for local governments at the moment. You've read Mayor Tobias's letter. It very much aligns with what the UBCM has been stating on behalf of Sooke and many other, all of the rest of the member municipalities. To just sum up this Professional Reliance Act, it would remove the right of local governments to review reports from provincially regulated professionals, including engineers, architects, agrologists, applied science technologists, biologists, and forest professionals, all in an effort to accelerate housing approvals without lowering standards, is the logic. A local government must accept as meeting permit or bylaw requirements any submission certified by such a professional, and can only reject it if the submission is incomplete or a complaint in respect to the submission has been made to the superintendent in Victoria. So really, I brought this forward because it's a subject we haven't discussed, and perhaps we want to, as the UBCM views the proposed legislation as continuing a trend towards sweeping. This is a quote, as much of what I offer here routinely is sweeping centralized legislation that impacts local governments developed without meaningful local government input. Mayor Tobias notes strongly this conflicts with responsibilities granted local governments under the community charter. It removes municipal authority and oversight, diminishes local democratic decision-making in favor of private and industry interests. Now, we have received a package from MLA La Jeunesse, as well as a package from MLA Anderson, arguing that it's not such a calamity as has been suggested. And it's worth noting that the window for public municipal input closed on January 6th, and that the subcommittee responsible for private members' bills will discuss it on February 2nd. So having said all that, anyone has any comments on this M216? Mayor Tate, I think you've been on CFAX talking about it.
That was quite some time ago, but when it first was introduced, I think the big one that I'm curious about is the service delivery impact here and how it fits in. So in some cases with the planning, as we know that applications are coming forward, they're shared with transit, they're shared with the CRD for waste and recycling, they're shared with schools. So you have a sense of what changes are occurring. So in this case, it just appears and it's approved. So it's almost like a game of pinball. I don't know where that ball is going to land and what the implications are. And there's been no consultation. So I agree with Mayor Tobias, as well as all the other various entities, including the Municipal Insurance Association, the Municipal Finance Association, Lidstone and Company and others about the impact to local governments. And yeah. And I think I'll just go back to the EBCM position. They work very closely with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, always has. And they put in a broad statement of what they're seeing, and they're representing member municipalities very similar to ours that don't follow everything that happens in the legislature in Victoria. So more to come. But I guess in this case, residents can just write back to the respective MLA that tabled this and our MLA for answers. Councillor St. Pierre, I believe you seconded this.
Couple of comments based on the letter. The first one is just that this is basically industry regulating industry. There was no request from local government or from the public. This was basically industry saying we'd like to have this level of freedom. On top of that, because there's no actual certification or any sort of a professional accreditation for this sort of Uber position they're looking at, there's huge liability issues potentially, because at this point in time, if we want to have a road looked at, you bring in an engineer, they're putting their credentials on the line. We don't know what could happen with this. And at that point, you don't have the choice. You have to accept it because it's legislated by the province and we are not able to do anything about that. But meanwhile, we have all the liability and no control. We just take on a huge liability with this type of situation. And I think that's actually probably our biggest risk.
Any comments from anyone else? More to come. Will be a lively discussion at either AVICC or EBCM. Councillor Beddoes, did you have your hand up?
Just acknowledge that the closing for a submission from us is the 6th, and we've lobbied to UBCM and let our thoughts known to the MLA. Now we just have to wait and see what comes out of the committee.
Okay, so motion is to receive. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. The second one here, 12.2, attention mayor and council, draft tree bylaw, Ray Proud. That council received the correspondence for information by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
Okay, so as I said, it was an action-packed correspondence package, and this one, it's not every day that a full-blown bylaw shows up in a package. This one was prepared by a 35-year Sooke resident, a relatively young man who, with family, living here in Sooke. He's an arborist, and he came up with this draft bylaw that you see in the package. Now, Mr. Prod has asked that I withdraw his draft bylaw at this time, as he'd like to consider further revisions of it. I did send him the package that included the 2020 bylaw. Interestingly, that the whole story of how we've moved towards and then just put on the brakes completely on a tree bylaw. The late Brenda Parkinson brought it forward as notice of motion back in November 2018. We made a motion for staff to, we got a unanimous with the exception of one vote against by Councillor Beddoes. It's worth looking back at those minutes. You had some good points.
I remember.
You do, okay. And so it finally came through to us in November 2020. We recognize, the minutes of that meeting very clearly state that there had been a public survey before the bylaw was brought forward, about 900 individual comments divided nearly equally between those in support and those against. The minutes of the December 7th meeting state that clearly tree management legislation needs to be very clear and concise. There is confusion, this was 2020, regarding the contents and intent of the bylaw. Were evident throughout the public comments. It's quite fascinating, all this material, but by the end of the session, we voted 4-3 in favor of recommending that council came forward a week later at the council meeting, and that 4-3 vote to develop a purpose-based engagement strategy for tree management. So in fact, we never did vote on a tree bylaw. We in fact voted 4-3 to continue looking at strategies for tree management in Sooke. So on that point, I did whip up a motion here, which perhaps you can share. Can you share that?
I apologize through the mayor to council. The corporate services computers have just suddenly hit a 9 o'clock automatic and unpreventable restart procedure. We're just waiting for all of our computers to come back online.
Oh, okay. Well, I could resend it to you. Would that be? Oh, you're offline. Okay. Well, why don't I read it out aloud? Should I? Okay. So given what's been happening over these last
Well, I should add though, Counselor, we do have a motion that's on the floor and that is to receive for
yeah, okay,
information.
let's get that dealt with.
So are you looking to amend that motion?
Well, that's the first motion, to receive it for information, and then
Okay,
I'll do an arising.
All right, we will do that. Just
Yeah.
over to our, okay.
Yeah.
Did you not entertain the request to have it removed or like?
We will have to hear what his motion is first. Just over to our staff.
Well, that's a good thing.
I would suggest that we can still receive the package for information, knowing that we're still going to not include the bylaw. Nothing has to change with the agenda, but we can simply receive this for information and then move forward with your motion arising. And my computer is up.
Okay.
Pop it up
Yeah,
momentarily.
so we'll deal with the first motion. However, I believe Counselor St. Pierre wanted to speak. So
I'm very pleased that you were able to bring forward the original agreed upon resolution, because that was not a tree bylaw. The land use committee at the time looked at this very carefully, and we got a huge amount of great input. Thank you very much. And the idea was a tree canopy strategy, something that would actually have a purpose. The problem that we had with the tree bylaw at that point in time, and honestly with a lot of tree bylaws, is that they don't necessarily seem to serve a particular purpose. So what do you want out of this bylaw was the question. And at this point, we might want to revisit that in terms of that we would like to have cooling. We might like to make sure that stormwater management is considered in terms of a tree canopy. There are actually environmental services that a tree canopy could perform, but at that point, the bylaw is not a bylaw. It would actually be a plan to actually provide certain environmental service to the community. A tree bylaw per se is not necessarily at all what would serve us best. As has been noted by a lot of people, you look at it, extra cost and so on and so forth. And I just like to comment on Councillor Haldane's suggestion of looking at different accreditations. The reason the ISA is recognized is because it's actually an industry standard from the ITA, the Training Authority. Unfortunately, you look at other accreditations and you don't necessarily have the same standards. You don't know what you're dealing with. And again, that creates liability issues if we were to have a tree bylaw. But I don't think that's necessarily what we're looking at this point in time.
okay,
And
but
so I don't necessarily think that what was brought forward here is as helpful as it could be. Anyway, just.
so at this point, we are just receiving for information. That is the motion. Okay, that's good information. Okay, anything more on receiving for information? No, all those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? None are opposed. And you wish to put forward this motion arising. Okay, go ahead.
Shall I read it?
Yes.
That staff produce a high-level report on tree hazard mitigation and safety in Sooke with a focus on 1, related regulations within district bylaws and the new official community plan, 2, guidelines for homeowners wishing to remove trees, and 3, an overview of the district's plans and or progress on development of an urban tree strategy.
Okay, there's a seconded. Now you can speak to it.
Yeah, so I think it's just, that we've heard tonight how much confusion is in the air. We've had some really good questions to Mr. Riley. I'd like to see Mr. Riley put his replies into a staff report and provide, you're creating these user-friendly guidelines for implementation. Hopefully you can share what you will be sharing with homeowners regarding hazardous tree removal or healthy tree removal. And I'm very curious to know, because back in 2020, we did ask for a purpose-driven tree engagement strategy, whether what kind of, I know work has been done in various ways. I'd just like an update a progress report and maybe a bit of a long-term vision of what well, now it's moving from high level into more complicated fashion. So yeah, just keep it pretty simple and don't use up too much time. But it's such a big issue at the moment. We've managed to keep 5 people in the room tonight, 6, and Helen Ritz. So it's clearly on people's minds, and that you can see them boiling back there. Okay.
Okay, Counselor Pearson is a seconder.
I would like to move an amendment to this bylaw that for the next 90 days that we use a status quo approach to our existing bylaws that were prior to the OCP adoption, so that there's some clarity and it
Okay,
gives.
just hold that.
I'm trying to make it simple.
That is, you're talking about the OCP now, and this is a motion relating to a staff report. So I think that is a different motion that you need to make.
Yeah. Well, it's no good having a report when we've got problems on the street, is my point.
Okay, but I rule that out of order as an amendment. Anyone else on this motion that's in front of us here? Counselor Beddoes.
Yeah, I have problems with it. The first thing is, as stated earlier, I'm very cool to a tree bylaw. And I know you're saying it's not a tree bylaw, but it's sure looking like one to me. And so I'm not in favor of that. I think there could be some more direction in regards to maybe some people's concerns, but my understanding it is that in the OCP is not a tree bylaw, and I'm not in favor of a tree bylaw at this time. I'm not saying absolutely categorically no, because the devil's always in the detail, but I'm cool to it. I remember the last time we had go-arounds about this, and again, we were had a lot of citizens very concerned about the bureaucracy of having to come to council and get opinions on whether they can take down an older tree in their yard. And quite frankly, there's all sorts of them in people's yards. And so I will not support this motion. So there, thank you.
Okay, Counselor St. Pierre.
I will support the motion because I don't think it's actually a tree bylaw. And I think what it's hoping, I think the intent is to combat a lot of misinformation, because we don't have a tree bylaw, but a lot of people think we do because of not contacting staff, not necessarily trusting what's coming from the district, instead trusting, honestly, misinformation that's out there that, you know, is saying that we have a tree bylaw that's come in through the back door or whatever. There is no tree bylaw. We don't have a tree bylaw to take back from or to amend because there is none. But first, we have to actually convince the public of that. I don't know if a report from staff is going to make any difference. However, I do very much like guidelines for homeowners wishing to remove trees, so they know how easy it is and that there is no tree bylaw. I think this is actually a communication issue. In terms of an overview of plans and progress on the development urban tree strategy, I think that's actually going to be for our next council in terms of strategic priorities. I don't think staff has the time to actually work on something like that right now. It's going to, I think it's just for the next council. So in terms of looking at this, the utility that I see is actually in item 2, which is guidelines for homeowners wishing to remove trees. And most of the rest of it, I think, in some ways, that part needs to combat some of the misinformation so people know that they don't have to get a huge report, that there's not a huge additional cost, and that there is no tree bylaw. That's it.
Were you looking then to amend and remove
I would
line
amend it
3?
of everything except for guidelines for homeowners to wishing to remove trees. But
So you want to make that amendment?
I don't know if it's friendly.
Well, removing, it depends on, well, you can make an amendment to delete something.
Okay, well, then I will make a motion that staff produce a I don't know, a communication plan to provide guidelines for homeowners wishing to remove trees.
Okay, so yeah, that's changing the intention here,
Mhm.
so that's
Okay.
fine. I'm just gonna ask our CEO, has her hand up?
Sorry, Mayor Tate, just to clarify, just wanted to clarify staff's next steps on this in specific to item 2. Staff will be responding. I know council's concerned there was a couple pieces of correspondence that were received. Staff will be responding to those writers tomorrow with further clarity as staff provided today. And as well, number 2 is under works right now. So this will be probably made for public consumption before a report would be able to come back to council. So just to clarify this, I'm happy because staff are planning to share this information with council before it gets released publicly, the information sheets and you know, so you have a tree in Sooke, what do you want to do? So just as far as the timeline goes, we were planning on launching those probably before we'd be able to bring a report back to you on those.
So it sounds like most of this is in the works anyway.
Number 2 for sure is underway.
Okay,
That
so-
changes council's desire for next steps on this.
Okay, so number 2 is underway, so that was sort of the one that, as we do with many things, it's just FAQs on whether you're trying to build or whatever here in Sooke would provide that. It seems like it's underway. I tend to agree with number 3 and number 1. Yeah, I don't know what further clarity I sort of support. I'm sort of, I could go either way on this, but knowing that the work's coming, by the time this report got made, the work would already be evidenced. I'd rather wait for, I think staff could put, from the sounds of it, an informational report forward to council. That's already in the works along with the draft brochure. And at that time, you could see, is that adequate? And look at a different motion at that time. And further, the writer that triggered this, grateful their work, they wanted to withdraw it. So that is another notice of motion that's going to come on a later date. It sounds like the writer wants to spend a bit more time. So it would be potentially the case of waiting to see what that draft looks like and bring it back at that time as an item of correspondence. Other thoughts from members of council? Councillor Haldane, then Pearson.
So when the guidelines come back, we'll have a chance to critique the guidelines one way or another with, we're getting lots of correspondence and stuff from the public. Just want to make sure that it's a made for Sooke guidelines, not specific to just the OCP.
So through your worship to Councillor Haldane, that was my understanding is once staff worked through the final version of that we would send a copy to council and open it up for council's comments or clarifications. I don't know that was going to come back to a formal council meeting report because this is just updating, you know, information sharing on our website. But definitely staff was anticipating emailing that to council in advance of releasing it publicly.
And one more thing would be so is every arborist in Sooke able to put in a draft tree bylaw and then we can pick which one we like? Is that what's happening?
I think it's the case, Councillor Haldane, that anyone can write to us and it's up to council to pull the correspondence as we have. In this case, a councillor flagged something and brought it forward.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, and as council members do, we can receive 50 letters, but they're all from the same person. You could bring them all forward if you so chose, and we would receive them or act on them. In this
I just
case,
seen a bylaw before, that's all.
well, that's because the writer drafted something, and it's here in its entirety for information because it was pulled forward through the process. Okay, Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Pearson and then back to the member.
Okay. And this is taking on shape of the tree bylaws of past and the past discussions around tree bylaws. And I was ruled out of order earlier because I mentioned the official community plan, but there's in this motion, it says, and the new official community plan. What about tomorrow morning? What about the people who have to cut down trees tomorrow morning? What about the people who are waiting to get trees cut down on the property? There's no clarity. We as council have an obligation to clarify right now what people are going to do tomorrow. There's a safety issue in our community and we're talking about all these things, and fair enough, it's going to be the same ongoing debate. But tomorrow morning, what about the good people who are going to cut down trees and now the people who are waiting to have trees cut down on their property? We're not addressing that issue. So I will not support this motion because it's not doing anything for that. We're going to go around the bush in this tree thing, and it's not a tree bylaw. It is a tree bylaw. It's not. making a tree bylaw through our OCP. And that's as plain as the nose on everyone's face in here. We're not solving a problem that needs to be solved. That's what's my issue. So as soon as this motion's finished, I'll be making another motion. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything from anyone else? Councillor St. Pierre, and then, sorry, back to the mover, yes.
Unfortunately, Councillor Pearson, that's the kind of misinformation that's confusing the public and leading to these issues. There is no tree bylaw. There is no tree bylaw. It's not a campaign of misinformation. It's not a backdoor thing. It's not some sneaky thing. There just isn't one.
I would ask.
So all we
we're
really
out there trying to cut trees down right now. But
well, that's because they've been lied to. Who knows? Probably people with the best of intentions and misinformation. It's very simple. There is no tree bylaw. There's nothing to ask to do because there's no tree bylaw and we don't have one. There's been no time to take the OCP and formalize it into bylaws. First of all, there is no tree bylaw. So all we need to do really is make it clear to the public, there's no tree bylaw. Right now, it looks like because of this massive scare and fear mongering, people are wondering, oh my God, what can I do? And there is a safety concern because of this bad information out there. Unfortunately, now we have to fight that. The real problem is actually addressing misinformation so that people can do what they would do anyway and cut down the trees that are dangerous without a tree bylaw, which is what we have.
or without asking anybody to do.
Exactly. Exactly. Just so.
Told tonight you do have.
No, you haven't. That's not what I heard.
So I think it's the
Can we get
case
information
is
stuff?
there's a catch-all statement, call before you dig, even if you think there's services in there and there's no services and where they are, what is the disclaimer says? It says call before you dig to make sure there's no services, so everything's fine. On this one, though, this is simply, Councillor Bateman has brought this up based on community input that is received in the past, based on a writer submitting correspondence. That writer has asked for more time to look at their potential bylaw they wished for us to consider. So he's brought something different forward here tonight, but I'll go back to you, Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, so this is my attempt to, I would not classify this as disinformation or misinformation out in the community. I think there's just some confusion. And I know in my particular gray matter, there's still some confusion. So I was thinking this motion arising would in fact give us some clarity in a upcoming council agenda. So there's that point. I would like to just address Councillor Haldane here. This was a citizen of Sooke who cares deeply about the future of our tree canopy. For all those good reasons, I applaud his initiative to independently, without request, come up with something for us to chew over. How fabulous that is, and we need more. Excuse me?
I'll answer that, just.
Okay, go ahead.
What's your point?
What's your order?
Your microphone.
Oh, sorry. We're supposedly discussing a letter that has been withdrawn.
No,
The person didn't want it brought forward, so why are we even discussing it?
Councillor Bateman has raised that. That is not what is in writing in front of us. And then he's put forward a motion arising.
Based on the letter? Because
Based,
that's what we're discussing tonight, is it not?
the motion is based, the motion arising comes from the correspondence.
The
Maybe,
correspondence is withdrawn, isn't it not?
no, we received it for information, so it's not withdrawn because we've received it. What the writer asked is that we don't advance this as a bylaw at the time because he wanted to make further refinements, was my understanding.
Yeah.
But we didn't withdraw it. We all unanimously received it, and then that triggered a motion arising.
So I'll just quickly finish up here. And I really take Councillor Pearson's point around urgency. This is the one hot topic emerging out of the OCP. And I think as soon as you've come up with these guidelines for homeowners, that communications take over and issue a press release and be very clear. And we each can do our part in circulating that information, getting it out there.
Okay, so on that motion, that is what is in front of us here. It's been moved and seconded. Anyone further on this particular motion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. It's tied. It's a tie vote is defeated. We're moving on. Okay. Next up is 12.3 AVICC AGM and Convention, second call for resolutions.
Okay,
And that here is for information by
Yeah.
Councillor Bateman. Is there a seconder? Seconded by
Yeah.
Councillor Haldane. Go ahead, Councillor.
I did just bring this forward for information. Last year, the package was included in our regular agenda. I think it's important to note the AVIC resolution deadline is February 12th. So if we had 3 resolutions last year that went through to UBCM, all 3 passed. Interestingly, in the package, it does very clearly indicate that UBCM made its special resolution number 1, which is they'd like to see fewer resolutions in future. Anyway, that's just there for information.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'll add that one of our resolutions, did they go? I don't think they went to AVICC. They went to UBCM.
1 did, and then 2 were not admitted off the floor.
At AVICC. Okay. Anyway, there is still time, and it's here for information. So all those in favor, please. And any opposed? That too is carried unanimously. There's no items, the correspondence items in under 13 from consent will flow to the next meeting. So we're on to council verbal reports. Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
Well, this is a report to Councillor Pearson that I have to apologize.
You forgot.
I missed it because I had another engagement that happened exactly at the same time. And I apologize because he was very careful to see about getting me to get there and I didn't do it. Sorry, Water Commission. So
a question came up today through the chair. Who is my alternate on the Wanda Fuca Water Commission? I believe it is, I think we voted on Councillor St. Pierre.
You're talking, okay, there's 2. So there's the
big
Regional
one.
Water Commission, which is in Victoria.
He's both.
And then there's the Wanda Fuca Water Distribution. And that is your, Councillor Pearson, you're appointed to that?
Yes, to both. I'm Wanda Fuca and the Big Water Commission.
Who's the primary at the Water Commission? You are?
Yeah.
And then Councillor St. Pierre is the alternate at CRD downtown on the 3rd
Yep.
Wednesday. Okay, because I sent this forward to CRD staff because over the holidays when I updated my calendar and under the Wanda Fuca one, it still showed Dana Lajeunesse as the alternate. So I don't know if they have received that change, which is maybe why this has happened. So I'm waiting to hear back on that. And then we may need to formally appoint one, but I thought we had addressed that. I just didn't go through the minutes. But have you been going then as the alternate?
this would be the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll clarify it. I don't have an answer to that because the information looked dated and I need CRD staff to confirm. But I thought that after Councillor or MLA Lajeunesse resigned that we addressed all of his appointments. I just didn't have time to go through the minutes to chase that. So maybe staff can help me with that. Okay. So verbal reports from council members. Okay, it's just a start to the new year. There is a special C Park meeting coming up. Yep. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I'll just note that I took part with several hundred other people on the 3rd annual Solstice Walk done by the Friends of Sooke Park Society on December 21st. And that's about it. Otherwise, I took a holiday break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be followed by a nap.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Just for members of council, just going forward, as you look at your calendar for the year, if you have vacation planned or thinking about going to, just maybe please let us know. I know that a few members of council do have scheduled plans, February, March. I'll be absent in March. And so just so we know to inform others of those things, to make specific arrangements. So I have an FCM board meeting in Newfoundland for the first week, and I will be taking a vacation to Japan towards the end of March. In that time, I will also be visiting our Friendship City. So I'm just trying to sort all that out. This is my personal expense. So for any of you viewing, no, I'm not charging the district to visit Natori City. It is on my own dime that I'm doing this. So please don't confuse me with others who have sat in this chair. Okay, I'm just going on vacation, visiting a place I know quite well. All right, on that note, item 615 doesn't, we've already met in camera, so are we?
Your worship, there is additional items to be considered in camera this evening, and the reason why we're proposing simply the closure of this meeting rather than adjourning to a separate in-camera meeting is that one of the items would need to be reported out this evening so it can be sent to the Capital Regional District by Wednesday. So if you, the easiest would be if you could please vote to close this session now on the basis of 91s A and K, and then we can go into that the business which needs to be dealt with in the absence of press and public.
Okay, so we do need to enter into close.
Yes, please, Your Worship.
Okay, but we also have these previous, like, I'm just gonna reorder the agenda then.
No, sorry, Your Worship, that's, so the item 16.1, that can be dealt with whenever, that's a report from a previous closed meeting, but the 16.2 relates to an item that you'll be considering in closed meeting coming up in the next few minutes.
Oh, I understand.
And that needs to be
Okay.
then reported out after you've had that deliberation, but before Wednesday, so we don't have time to put it on a subsequent meeting of council.
Okay, got it. Okay, so then so under 15, that council closed the meeting to the public pursuant to the following subsection of the community charter, the time being 9:28 PM. 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. And K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of a council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. So moved by Councillor Beddoes, seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Okay, we'll move into close. Thank you everyone for attending tonight. Pouring rain outside.